oral arguments. So I'm coming back to you today because that is something we're going to do. And the fact of the matter is, I could not complete it the couple of days because of my work schedule. And I really want to go in depth with some of the things that are happening and that are very important via the oral argument. So I decided today would be the best day. It is Good Friday. And you know what? Whenever you have time, please come back, listen to this. It's going to be very in depth. It's going to go over most likely our 2 hours because there's a lot of information to cover. And I want to highlight some things that are really coming forth in real time about why it's important for us to go ahead and rule on this birthright citizenship, right? We have to do something immediately on birthright citizenship because Chinese are committing fraud for birthright citizenship. But we're going to get into it. First of all, let me make sure my screen is up over here on my YouTube channel. I think this is the best day to do this considering, how everything has been going all week long. Okay, let's see. Let me make sure you can see me over here. Oh, yeah, there we go. Let me do something here. Okay. Make sure. And everything that I bring up on the screen, I'm going to go over some things. Of course, I have an agenda. So we can make sure we lay this out correctly and everybody understands that, you know what? They literally trying to make ethnocide and genocide us. Like, they're trying to change the Constitution. They're trying to say that, what's his name? That King Wong Ark or whatever case takes precedence. But we're gonna Kim Wong Ark case, right, takes precedence. Mind you, you all, if you don't know, they never became citizens of the United States. I just want to put that out there. But we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it. I have it up. We're gonna talk a little bit about it. We're gonna go through some of what they are stating in the Supreme Court. We're gonna listen and make sure that we hear what they have to say. I'll stop and share throughout this presentation or throughout this live because it's very important on the information that we will be deciphering and processing. So that's why I say it may take you a while to go through everything and compartmentalize. Take your time. Look at what I have on. Yes, I have on my Freedmen t-shirt. I know I'm a freed woman, but at the same time, it's under legislation. It's Freedmen. There's an E here instead of an A. But here we are, right? 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments. When I hear people say that, oh, your past doesn't matter now, we're living this all over again. Our ancestors had to deal with this shit. Now we're having to deal with it all over again. So our past is definitely affecting our present moment. And how we deal with our present moment determines how we're going to deal with our future. And guess who gets to decide on that? The Supreme Court of the United States of America. Right? Here we are again, the Americans that we're stakeholders. We're shareholders. We have equity. We have all kinds of contributions, aka accolades, accomplishments, which goes to our equity in our country. But we got immigrants on the soil today, stating that America was built by immigrants. And oh my God, we got an immigrant now saying that due to the fact that the illegal aliens and what they've had to endure on this soil because they're criminals and we're arresting them, that all of a sudden they also deserve reparations. Y'all help me out. The Democratic Party is insane. Cray. Anybody going along with the Democratic Party right now? I'm with the president. Those people are crazy. You're insane. You're demonic. And we're gonna fight you. And I'm all about making sure the Democratic Party is demolished, okay? Because why in the world are we in 2026 as the Americans and patriots of this land having to go through this bullshit? Yeah, I said it. I'm pissed off about it too. Because I got grandchildren. I got nieces and nephews. I got cousins. We have a lineage and legacy here. None other has. And they keep trying to write us off the soil, write us out of our documents, doctrines. Come on now, y'all. Let's get real about what's going on with what's happening right now in America pertaining to us freedmen. Let's get real about it. Okay, so I have to play you all my AI. I have to play my AI. So you all know I did create another series for the AI. And I'm going to show you what she says. So then you all know what she says. Go out on Freedmen channel, please, and sign the petition. What does it hurt? Because when we go to the table, we want Trump to know, hey, we got freedmen that are aligning with us with this, with our proposal, with our agenda moving forward for our Office of Freedmen Affairs. Okay, that's what it's for. It's your voice. We will be representing you because guess what? We don't have any representation right now. You got taxation without representation right now because the Black Caucus are immigrants and they're a part of the Democratic Party and they're operating in your Black identity. That's a part of ethnocide, genocide, you all. Okay? Yes, we can represent ourselves and we're going to represent ourselves at the table. That's why I say I will be sitting at the table. Nobody can tell me I'm not going to be sitting at the table. I've been doing this work and I made sure that I got with other people and a coalition of others that also could see the vision, right? To have the discernment and understand President Trump is not hurting us. It's the Democratic Party. And they're even after him. Because guess what? Right now, we're living in a time where there's a real life political party that has become a domestic terrorist party. And they are actively attempting to ethnocide, genocide Americans, especially us. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, it is what it is. I'm going to be real with you. If you can't be real with yourself, you can't love yourself and you can't love nobody else. You can't even love your people if you can't be real with yourself in this moment. Because how in the world is, like, again, I said, it's 2026. And why are we having to fight for what's ours in our country when we've been here for over 400 years? I'm tired of it. Trump, I'm tired of it. So I want to make sure all are prosecuted as traitors on the soil. But let's look at the AI and the messaging that I did send out to the Trump administration earlier this week, and I will continue. This has to go under the OMB. I'll share my screen, and I want to make sure that it's up on YouTube before I continue, because this is crazy. So let's listen to the AI, and then we're gonna get into it because there's a lot we got to talk about today. There's a lot. Okay. All right. Let's see. Give me a moment. I don't see. Okay, it's coming up now. It is coming up on the YouTube. Once it comes up on the YouTube, I will begin to play. What? And okay, let's see. It's taking so long. Let me do something. On the YouTube side, I have my additional internet source. Let's see if it'll make a difference over on the YouTube side. And let's go with that. Because it is taking a moment. But I would like to know what you all are thinking about some of the things that are happening to us right now. We have like literal, they claim we have political representation, but all of our political representation is representing immigrants, even our own. Al Sharpton. I'm going to keep saying that the Black clergy cannot listen to the Black clergy. Why would we listen to the Black clergy at this point in time? You got Reverend Warnock is not even in Congress saying, oh, you know what, Democrats? We can't do this. No, we freedmen. No, he quiet. Everybody quiet. And then want you to go as President Trump and his administration when they're the ones cleaning house. They're really cleaning house. When he said he's about to clean the deep state, he for real. And I'm with him. I'm with it. Go ahead, Trump. Go ahead, Trump. I like Trump. But anyway, let's listen.
Hello, it's Conswello of Freedmen Descendants Advocacy Group coming to you again to discuss more about the Americans First Freedmen Delineation Petition. I'm discussing the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, that is over the census. We as activists and advocates testified and petitioned the work groups of the OMB under the Biden-Harris administration regarding our delineation and ethno-aggregation. We testified that we wanted to make sure that we separate from immigrants that are now operating under our racial construct of Black or African American. We know we are not benefiting from what is ours, equity and sustainability in our country, because many immigrants today are included under our racial identifier of Black, African American, and also minorities regarding affirmative action. The census defines Black or African American as individuals with origins in any Black racial group of Africa. So that includes Jamaica, Haiti, Ethiopian, Somali or Somalians. It also includes Cubans or any Hispanic and Latin Americans. That is not us. The OMB stated that they did not know what terms would apply to us because there wasn't a consensus. They stated that the majority of the public input on the subject expressed for adding a category or question to identify descendants of persons enslaved in the United States. Some of these terms were foundational Black American, Americans descendants of slavery, American freedmen, or Black American. The Trump administration has since removed all of the Biden-Harris OMB directives via executive orders. We can highlight our freedmen status and our freedmen term going forward, which helps us to delineate and ethno-aggregate our ethnicity, our nation of origin, and most importantly, our freedmen status is applicable to the Constitution of the United States. It aligns with the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments. The Supreme Court of the United States is going to listen to oral arguments regarding the original interpretation of the 14th Amendment. We know that the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments were added to the Constitution to support the freedmen and their descendants. It can be a protected status, and then along with that, it was supposed to make us whole with full citizenship rights in the United States. The Supreme Court of the United States discussed the recent affirmative action cases, and in that stated that the Constitution is race neutral and America is no longer operating in race. Unfortunately, the OMB is still utilizing race, and we have Supreme Court justices that have stated that they benefited not only from the 14th Amendment, but also affirmative action. As we go forward, we know this administration is working on changing the census. Therefore, we must communicate and express to this administration so that they understand we are delineating and ethno-aggregating as we have a right to self-identify, and along with the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, we want to utilize our freedman status and have it acknowledged. So delineating and ethno-aggregating from the immigrants should not be a problem, as we are Americans, and it is about Americans first, and Americans first equals freedmen first. So I thank you for listening. I encourage you to please sign the petition, because when we go sit at the table, we're going on your behalf. And we want this administration to know that we have your support as the freedmen. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna start. Okay. All right. So you all know that this is a part of the marketing that I'm putting out behind the petition, so everyone can understand that this petition, we are delineating, ethno-aggregating going forward. We are advocating for our Bureau of Freedmen Affairs to reconstruct it and reinstate it, specifically for the freedmen, especially since we want to talk about birthright citizenship and the 14th Amendment. You wouldn't have the 14th Amendment without the 13th Amendment, which is the Emancipation, Civil War. We had our free people and colored troops that fought in the Civil War under the Union. We had some on the Confederate side too, had some enslaved of our ancestors on the Confederate side because they were enslaved, they were making them fight. But at the end of the day, who was triumphant? Right? It was our ancestors. They needed our ancestors. Abraham Lincoln said it. He needed, oh, y'all don't know? Y'all don't know? Abraham Lincoln said he needed the slaves on the Union side to help fight, right? And overcome the Confederates. If you don't know, now you know. And you know what? I'm not just talking out the side of my neck. Okay, let me, if I can find that one, I can show it to you too. It's also in his presidential library. So don't let nobody on this soil try to punk you. Oh, here it is. I'm gonna just go ahead and I'm gonna show this really fast on the screen so you understand. This is again quoted by the President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, when he decided to also make sure emancipation was ongoing throughout the South, right? Some of the northern of course, they aligned with the president at the time, Abraham Lincoln. But we know that the Confederates, that also consisted of native tribes. And we're going to get to why native tribes did not have citizenship on this soil. That's a part of it, you all. I'm taking you down memory ancestors. I am my ancestors. I represent them today. It is their blood that flows through my veins. It is their DNA housed in this shell of a body. So no matter how you slice it and how people want to tell you, oh, you're not, that was your ancestors, that wasn't you. We represent them today. The mission continues. Because they didn't get what was due to them, which is we can say it's our inheritance. But they did not receive what is due, what they worked for. They did not receive what they earned via their work ethic, via their inventions and innovations, via their contributions, everything that they did, even in the Civil War. So let's quit playing and thinking that all these others coming to this soil are entitled to what's ours. That's not how it's going down over here. I'm hyped, y'all. I'm really hyped. So here's what Abraham Lincoln said. And then we're going to get to some of the fraud happening under the 14th Amendment. We're going to go over the 14th Amendment. I'm going to pull up the global record. I want you all to understand certain definitions when he was talking about allegiance, jurisdiction. Even they talk about the parents, y'all. And when we talk about the parents concerning the 14th Amendment and birthright citizenship, woo, wait, okay. So on my screen, right here, here it is. My paramount object in this struggle is to save the Union, and is not either to save or to destroy slavery. He didn't care about it. He wanted, hey, slavery had to go on, but there was a civil war, and we need manpower. Ha. If I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would. And if I could save it by freeing some and leaving others alone, I would also do that. What I do about slavery and the colored race, I do because I believe it helps to save the Union. I have here stated my purpose, or according to my view of official duty, and I intend no modification of my oft-expressed personal wish that all men everywhere could be free. What? So he literally states, if I could save the Union without any slave, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. So what did he do? Emancipation Proclamation. Because guess what? He had to make sure that he saved. We freed ourselves. Our ancestors freed us. That's the way I look at it. And then saved America because they saved the Union. Yeah, that's not an immigrant. That's not a Chinese domiciled on this soil. Come on now. Anyway, woo, I'm hot, okay? Because this is crazy. But you know what? I spoke about the Chinese. So before we get into it, I'm going to go ahead and talk about all of the fraud of the Chinese utilizing birthright citizenship. And it's going to make you even hot, hotter than fish grease. But you know what? Then we're going to get into how the oral arguments went. And then the oral arguments are going to take a while. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the Chinese fraud so y'all can understand what is happening with the Democratic Party. This came up earlier today. It's all over X. If you hadn't seen it, I don't know why you haven't seen it, because it's everywhere on X. And we just had oral arguments on birthright citizenship talking about the Chinese. Look at God. Look at God. Look at the ancestors. Woo! The Supreme Court is going to have to check themselves. Ketanji Brown Jackson or whomever, I perceive some of the women would stand with the immigrants more than the men. That's what I see. And we already know by the way they were questioning some things that some of them are going strictly for the immigrants. But let's look at this. We got to talk about, you all, how we're being attacked. We're being attacked. I hope more of our freedmen men begin to stand up. Because the women, we're going to do what we got to do. We know, we see what's going on. I don't see a lot of our freedmen men getting down dirty. It's time to get dirty, y'all. It's time to really get down and dirty because they really attacking us. I'm going to wait for this to come up on YouTube so you all can make sure you hear this. And I got some more stuff. We're gonna go down this little rabbit hole for a minute before we go into some of the things discussed in the oral arguments with the Supreme Court. But okay, so it's taking a little moment. We're gonna give YouTube. I love y'all. My streaming over there, I don't know why it's so slow. I got my extra gadget connected to this computer, to this machine. I don't know what's going on, but give it some time. Please be patient with me. I'm not going anywhere. That's what I'm saying. It's going to take us a little time to get to everything, but we're going to get to it. We're going to talk about it today. We have no other choice, you all. There's no reason why we should be sitting back as grassroots, as the masses of freedmen, as the Americans that are stakeholders in this country. You're in the Constitution. Not once, but twice you're mentioned in the Constitution. This is not no Chinese immigrants. This is not no Haitians or Bahamians, right? None of them have freedmen. None of them are under the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, considering they were not here fighting no war, no civil wars, not even enslaved on this land. So everything applicable to us is all of a sudden applicable to immigrants. It is not. We have what we have, Immigration Naturalization Act that covers immigrants. They've always had Immigration Naturalization Acts or some kind of immigration quota in the Constitution. I do believe, I will state this. I do. Let me look it up before I say it. Reagan didn't even give the illegals. He couldn't put them under the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments. He had to give them amnesty. And amnesty means that they basically they allowed them, even though they came here illegally, gave them citizenship. And that's what they want to do again, to come in on top of us. And then this is why they so bold with us right now. They really think getting their numbers up on top of us, and now they gonna rearrange, reinterpret, right? Everything that is meant for us. They're now trying to reinterpret it for immigrants. If they are, again, you have heard them state, how many times have you heard them state, immigrants built this country? And we know that's a freaking lie. We know that's a freaking lie, because wasn't immigrants over here for 247 years enslaved building America? Okay, so it's up on YouTube. Okay, let's listen to this, you all. This is gonna blow your mind, and I got some more for you. This ain't the only one, or this is not the only one. Okay, let me get to it, because I'm gonna rewind it, and I want you all to hear what just happened. This I think it was March, but and now they covering all of this stuff, right? Now they covering it all, because
just breaking moments ago, the FBI indicting a brother and sister in connection with the placement of an explosive.
Okay, hold on, I want it up. I want you all to hear.
Zhang, who is believed to have planted the device, is currently in China.
The device did not detonate.
Just breaking moments ago, the FBI indicting a brother and sister in connection with the placement of an explosive device at MacDill Air Force Base in Florida. The FBI says Alan Zhang, who is believed to have planted the device, is currently in China.
The device did not detonate, but minutes after the device was planted, a 911 call reported that a bomb had been placed on the base. When that phone call came in, no location for that bomb was in fact given in that 911 call.
The device was found on the base 6 days later. Thankfully, no one was hurt. FBI Tampa also arresting the suspect's sister, and Mary Zhang, who is charged with accessory after the fact and tampering with evidence. No motive was given, but MacDill Air Force Base is the headquarters of U.S. Central Command.
Okay.
Just breaking moments ago, the FBI indicting a
brother and sister born in the U.S. to Chinese illegal aliens. Yep. Yep, you heard it. You read it right there? Mm-hmm. Yeah. In the 1990s. Oh, let's read it off. Let's read it off so you understand. Their parents, who legally entered in the United States in the 1990s, had their asylum applications denied in 1998 and remained in the country illegally for decades. Their parents were arrested by ICE on March 18th and remain in custody. The incident comes as the Supreme Court is actively considering President Trump's executive order aimed at restricting birthright citizenship. The order seeks to limit automatic U.S. citizenship for children born on American soil to parents who are neither U.S. citizens nor lawful permanent residents. Okay. Now, in the Von King Art case, yeah, I got more for you, Square Biz. I got more for you. Now we know the King Wong Ark case, the parents were also still under the authoritarian of the Chinese emperor, but they were domiciled here as permanent residents, right? But they never became citizens. And then along with that, they still went back to China. Okay? They still went back to China. So I just want you all to know this, right? This is what is happening. This is what is ongoing right now in America. So, okay. Well, let's scroll on down. Give me one moment. I'm gonna scroll on down because I want y'all to see something else, right? I want y'all to be able to see this. Hold on. Let me get to the right tab. Okay. Now, birth and tourism invasion in action. A pregnant Nigerian couple flies to Michigan to drop an anchor baby. They admit to the officer it's their plan. Let's listen to this. Okay? And we're going to get to some more. We're going to get to some more of what's going on here. Because this is crazy. Okay? Oh, shoot. Here we go. With the internet. Dang. Okay, let me stop sharing. I'll come back. Because this is a major issue in our country where everybody, and they're allowing everybody to come here to America, and they're illegal. We've never ever had such in America. If the president had to give illegals amnesty, you know it's no way that in today's time that applies. And there's no way it applies today. No way. And they trying to make you believe that this is how the Constitution is, the interpretation of the Constitution. The interpretation of the Constitution does not change. It does not change. So why is it that everyone now, because, well, we know why. We know why they want to now change the interpretation of the 14th Amendment and birthright citizenship, because they want to come in here and bring their families up in here and then get on top of us as they tell us we're not worthy of what our ancestors already made work for us, our inheritance. We are the citizens here, but they super citizens, I should say. We're the super citizens here in America, not them. They have nothing here to claim. So anytime these beings are here on our soil claiming that this is their country and they built it, we know they're insane. You have to know they're insane. And I'm gonna go as far as, like the president says, they're crazy and they're retarded. I'm not holding back. Why are we being nice to terrorists on our soil? What is going on here? We're being invaded. Why would we be nice to terrorists on our soil? Okay, it's coming back up. Let's see. Let's listen to this. I will share my screen again because I want you all to see. If you think this is a game, it's really not. You got some people on X that be in spaces that really are just continuing to keep our people sidetracked from really being active and doing things for our people at this moment. This is very important. This is not a game, and I'm going to keep saying it. Okay, so we got to get it up over here on the other side. Never fails. Okay, let's see. Come up. It's buffering. Once it comes up, we'll go with that. Give me a moment, and it'll come up. I definitely want to get to another video of where they literally have found a guy that is a surrogate. He's paying for surrogates to have babies on American soil so they can get citizenship, and they're Chinese. You all, come on, what's going on? This is crazy. Insane. Insane. But hold on, let's see if it comes on. I just want our people to understand what we're having to go through in our country again and again and again and again and again and again. I'm over it. I'm 55. There should be no reason why I'm going in my latter stages of life having to fight for what is ours or what is mine and what is my children and my grandchildren. What the? Woo, okay. I mean, we should not be sitting back at this. Okay, it's up. I'm going to play it now. Let's listen.
We'll figure it out. Do you plan on having the baby in Michigan? That's fine. And how are you going to pay for it? And we can move on.
Okay.
So answer the questions, please.
Fine.
Yes.
So if she can have a baby in Michigan,
yes.
Fine.
Okay.
If we can pay for it. But
Very
if we
good.
cannot pay for it, then we leave.
Okay, very good. Was that your intention when you guys traveled from Nigeria? You knew that. Is that right? You knew that that's what was going to happen.
Yeah, we knew it.
Okay. Were you nervous to tell me that?
Yeah, because we didn't know what.
No problem. I appreciate you telling me the
What are
truth.
they gonna do with us? You know.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to move to the next step. We'll figure it out. Do you plan on having the baby in Michigan? That's fine. And how are you going to pay for it? And we can move on.
Okay.
So answer the questions, please.
Fine.
Yes.
So if she can have a baby in Michigan,
Yes.
Fine.
Okay.
If we can pay for it. But
Very
if we
good.
cannot pay for it, then we leave.
Okay, very good. Was that your intention when you guys traveled from Nigeria? You knew that. Is that right? You knew that that's what was going to happen.
Yeah, we knew it.
Okay. Were you nervous to tell me that?
Yeah, because we didn't know what.
No problem. I appreciate you telling me the
What are they
truth.
gonna do with us? You know.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to move to the next step.
Okay. They literally plan to come to the United States to have their baby on the soil so the baby can supposedly have birthright citizenship. Now, I'm going to have to feature this fool. This is the insane Pajit on our soil talking crazy. And I said it, and I'm going to say it again, the Pajit. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you come on this soil and try to tell us that immigrants built America? Listen to this, you all. Hold on. Let me start it from the beginning. Listen to this.
The majority of Americans across the country, regardless of political party, know that immigrants from all over the world, Somalia, India, wherever they're from, Latin America, Africa, that immigrants have built this country and make this country what it is today. The majority of Americans across the country, regardless of political party, know that immigrants from all over the world, Somalia, India, wherever they're from, Latin America, Africa, that immigrants have built this country and make this country what it is today.
Okay. They built no industries.
The majority of Americans
I'm going to stop it just so I can say this. They built no industries. Everything, yes. This is a Pajit politician. She's from India. She wasn't born here. Okay? And she looks retarded. But anyway, they have no innovations, no inventions, have not fought any freaking wars for America. But all of a sudden they built America. And we know how America gets down. Right? America will fight on this soil. We'll fight on and off this soil. It don't even matter. Where are they written in the history, y'all? Where? And this is what they're trying to tell us and to say that the 14th Amendment is meant for illegal aliens to birth babies on the soil. Okay, here we go. Here we go. We got to get to this one, y'all. We have to get to this one. Listen to this. Listen to this. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me rewind, make sure it's the very beginning. And we're going to go with it.
Let's start here with some examples of some of the types of individuals we could be talking about, like Juan Carlos Valencia Gonzalez. Now, Juan Carlos Valencia Gonzalez was born in Santa Ana, California in 1984. His parents were from Mexico. He happens to also be the stepson of El Mencho, the leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel. And now he is reportedly leading that very same cartel. And here's the thing. He is a United States citizen by birth. And it doesn't stop there. Reports of foreign wealth being used to manipulate the system. One Chinese billionaire reportedly has more than 100 U.S.-born children through surrogacy. The idea, build a future family and a business succession plan. Some clients, by the way, request up to 100 babies via multiple surrogacies. It can cost as much as $200,000. And why would they do that? Because babies born here are automatically U.S. citizens. Also, surrogacy is illegal in China. Nearly 41% of international surrogate parents in the United States are Chinese. So why is this such a debate? Look around the world. Much of Europe has restricted birthright citizenship. Asia basically ended it. The United States, still one of the few countries around the world that sits as an outlier.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to stop. Y'all heard what they said, right? What they said. Which you all, birthright citizenship is a recent thing with the Democratic Party. Come on now. This was not happening in the 1980s. It was not happening until the late 1990s and 2000s and now, when more of the immigrants were coming in after the Immigration, Naturalization, and the Civil Rights Act, where they removed the quotas. And as soon as we got civil rights, affirmative action, and they put minorities in there, they also made sure that they had the Immigration Act, Immigration Naturalization Act, and opened the doors. And now all of a sudden they are interpreting, want to tell us that the 14th Amendment is also applicable to illegal aliens having a baby on the soil. But this is the immigrant mindset. Legal and illegal, because we know the demons rats are cray-cray, like the president said. So there's no way they can interpret anything that the forefathers of America put into the Constitution. They wasn't here. They can't even read it on paper. Do you all know that I had an immigrant to try to tell me in the English language that a comma is just a pause, but a comma can also give you a list of items in English? Y'all know what I'm talking about? Oh yeah. He gonna tell me that's not what that means. These people are seriously delusional, lunatics, psychopaths, sociopaths. I'm psychotic. Okay? They're not sane. And if we think we're living with sane beings at this moment in time, you are cray-cray yourself. I'm just gonna say it. Any freedmen at this point in time trying to coalesce, think that you gotta align and mentally, play these games with these beings when you know they crazy. They're not sane. Ain't no way they sane. How you gonna make up illegal aliens all of a sudden they are citizens because they have a baby on the soil? Okay, we got one more. Look, we got one more. Okay, I want y'all to understand the reason why they going so hard with birthright citizenship right now, because it's all a fraud. It's all fraud. It's all fraud. And I want to make sure that the current administration, once that ruling comes through the Supreme Court of the United States, now For me, I believe that they're going to rule in favor of Trump and the United States, or us, right? Because then they will open the floodgates up to even more fraud and these beings coming to our soil that don't deserve to be here. So, and then now with the it's just blowing up that's happening on the soil. So, reason for them at this point in time to say that they have to circumvent naturalization laws. How is two illegals birthing us American citizen if both are illegal? Then you know what? It's the fact you just saw Nigerians trafficking their own child for citizenship in America. That's human trafficking. He said, did that police, that custom officer not say you knew exactly what you were doing when you came? They are trafficking their own children. So I don't want to hear nobody tell me that that's not human trafficking. That is human trafficking. So that's inhumane in itself. And it's the parents. It is the parents that are aligning with human trafficking. Now, let me share my screen because we got another one coming up. I got to share this. You got to hear all of these cases. And then we're going to get to it. And we're going to get a little bit more into some of what was discussed during the actual oral arguments. But I have to highlight the fact on this one again, and I want y'all to hear what they have to say.
Their nanny, 56-year-old Chun Mei Lee. Investigators say after looking at the surveillance video, she is the main suspect in the child abuse case and is still on the loose.
The discipline, both verbally and physical, was severe to the point where, again, it supported the beliefs that child abuse was occurring inside the home.
Well, sources tell us of the 21 children, 17 are 3 years old or younger. So where did all these kids come from? That is what the FBI is trying to figure out. The Bureau refused to comment on the case, but Arcadia police confirmed that their detectives are working with the FBI. Arcadia's investigation, though, determined that the children are the product of a surrogacy operation owned, you guessed it, by Zhang and Shen.
It's horrific. It's disturbing. It's damaging emotionally.
Kayla Elliott is one of the surrogate mothers hired by Zhang and Shen. She says they told her they only had one other child. She's now hoping to get custody of the child that she bore for the couple.
These agencies were supposed to trust them and follow their guidance, and come to find out the whole thing was a scam and the parents own the agency. I mean, that was not disclosed at all beforehand.
Anything goes. And these clinics, these agencies are not regulated by any governing body.
Callie Fell is with the nonprofit Center of Bioethics and Culture, and she's working with Kayla Elliott. Fell says having more than 20 children through surrogates is not illegal, but it raises serious questions as to why people would do that.
That to me smells of trafficking, child trafficking. What are the intentions of having children, that many children at home through these assisted reproductive technologies?
Now, police tell us all 21 children are in DCFS custody. No charges have been filed. The LA County District Attorney's Office is not commenting on this case. Reporting live in Arcadia, Rob Hayes, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
All right, there's another one, right? They just busted. That's basically them busting some Chinese whole human trafficking ring. For birthright citizenship, human trafficking. This is so freaking crazy and ironic to me at the same time. Our ancestors were trafficked. Right? Some of our ancestors. Regardless, let's go with that. Because they were enslaved. So they were trafficked, right? The children, everybody, right? So then, most of them, we know we had some free people here. But at the same time, You had, yes, that's our, no, I think that was California. Is that Arcadia? I think it was California. But you know what? I can go back and look. But the fact of the matter is, they're implementing, Chinese are implementing human trafficking. So all these babies that they think they having, and the ruling of the 14th Amendment, it should be made, it should be, they should be prosecuted for fraud and crime, right? Human trafficking. Human trafficking. So this is the craziness that is ongoing right now in America. And then they up here talking, don't let nobody tell us and our children we're the worst of this society. No, we're not. No, we're not. Look at this. These are immigrants coming over. Okay. So I just wanted to cover some of that. So you all know why they going so hard on this birthright citizenship. It's basically to come over so they can, immigrants can come over and come on top of us. And now they want to say that they built America. Again, I will reiterate, they have no inventions, but they're all up in all of our industries that we, our people, freedmen, right? The filament in the light bulb. That's not a Jamaican. That's not a Haitian. Laying out the grid and laying out DC, architecture of DC. Building the White House not once, but twice. All of your federal buildings in DC right now were built by who? And it's on the White House Historical Society's website. Government website. Okay, let's bring it forward to modern day technology. Your PC computer and peripherals. It was a black man that did that. And yeah, there's a white man, but the white man didn't do the peripherals. And he's still living today. His name is Dr. Mark D. out of IBM. A lot of our people work either with the government creating and inventing, or they worked in the private sector, inventing and creating, right? Or AI, artificial intelligence, Dr. Blackwell, that they're using now. And literally, NVIDIA has a chip named after him. Come on, y'all. Let's get it together. I heard some black men talk about they want their children to learn Mandarin and Spanish and be able to go to China to have a job. Y'all hear what I'm saying? What is going on? I don't think they were us, though. You know, you got a lot of immigrants now in a black identity. They operating in our black identity. I'm going to get to that, too. Because guess who filed an amicus brief as black immigrants? Haitians. They sure enough did. So they were talking about the Chinese billionaire. Before I get going into the case, I know I need to go ahead and get into the case. I want y'all to make sure you are with me on the case, because I got to break down some things. And I, like I said before, we're going over the 2-hour spot this time. We have no other choice. It's a lot of info to the Lord. It's going to be on the YouTube and be able to break, compartmentalize. It's a lot of information, but we got to get to it. Now I got to make sure you all get this information, because you got to be able to make good, sound decisions and judge. He is not going to give it to you. We already know that. Okay, y'all want to see hold on. Let's see if it's coming on YouTube. Y'all want to see what the Chinese, that billionaire Zhu Bo has, that's fathering 100 children throughout the U.S. for surrogacy, via surrogates, white women. It's coming up on the YouTube channel. I don't know if y'all can see it on X right now. You all can see it on X. Let's look. Look on X. And if you can see it, this is what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's up on X. Okay, YouTube is the only one. Okay, sorry. I'm making sure it's up on my phone too, so on X. But I want you all to look at this. This is who is fathering through surrogacy hundreds of babies to be born on the U.S. soil as Chinese, biracial. And then they want to say this is okay under birthright citizenship, the 14th Amendment. We're going to get into that. We got to get into that. Okay. Is it coming up? I'm giving it a little bit more time, and we're going to play this. And then we're going to go into it. We're going to talk about allegiance, some definitions. I'm going to lay out some definitions for you so you understand what he's talking about when I play some of the audio from the oral arguments. What is it going to come up or what over here on YouTube? Come on, YouTube. Okay, let's see. It's not up yet. Let's see. I'm going to do this. I don't want to mess it up because the transference, it's not even buffering. Let's see. Is that Arcadia, Florida? Dang, I'll have to look and see if it's Arcadia. I'm not sure if it's Arcadia or not. I thought it was California. Let's see if this will play. Okay, let's see if it plays here. Because it may be my internet again. And maybe that's the issue. Let's see. It's buffering on one and nothing on Instagram. Okay, nothing on X, nothing over here. Let me stop sharing. Because it looks like this is not even playing on X now. Okay. Let me go out of it for a minute and let's see if it'll play. I'm back on. Okay. All right. Well, it looks like it's not going to play, but you do get an idea of what he looks like. So it was California. The blatant child trafficking Chinese couple in California. It's California. Okay. Just so you know, Square Biz. It was not in Florida. Okay. There was a picture of Bo, so you all could see what he looks like, but I couldn't bring him up over here on the YouTube. But we'll get back to it. Okay. We'll get back to it. I don't want to spend too much time on that. Where we want to go now is I want to go ahead and define some terms for you. We're going to define what allegiance is. I want you all to understand these terms as we move forward with going into the oral arguments, because you're going to hear these terms consistently. And I want you all to know what these terms mean and how they are interpreting these terms throughout the audio. We fought in the Civil War. Exactly. But now they trying to say it's for immigrants, honey, illegals at that. Everything that is ours is all of a sudden it's everybody's, right? We can't use nothing that ours, but for them, everything is for them. Everything is for them. And you know, they be really trying to shame us. They really are. You're watching from YouTube and back to X. Okay, I appreciate you. Let the dead bury the dead too. 12. Let the bury the dead. I hear you, sister. I appreciate you. Come on back. I'm gonna keep it moving. I know it can be it, and I can download it and put it out on YouTube. So anything that I'm missing here. So, but anyway, it's coming up a little bit faster when it's not a video on YouTube, and that's okay. That's how I want it. Okay. So I want you all to. I'm gonna define these definitions. Okay, because you're going to hear it again throughout the audio. Allegiance is the loyalty, devotion, or fidelity owed by a citizen to their state or a subject to their sovereign, often formally pledged. Right? And I remember we used to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Do you all remember when we used to say Pledge of Allegiance in school? Wasn't that something that we all did? Well, I can remember, putting your hand over your heart and the flag right there in the room, and you saying, y'all remember that? I remember that. I went through that. They don't do that now either. They don't do that now. And look who's all over here. Look who's all over here. No allegiance. No freaking allegiance to this country, but want to claim thing and now want to say that America was built by immigrants. Ooh, okay. Ooh, the ancestors get me, y'all. They get me. Okay, so it's a strict faithfulness to a pledge, duty, or cause. Now, these people have to take an oath when they become naturalized in America. That's an oath, right? That's an allegiance to this United States of America and renouncing their own country or nation that they came from. That's an allegiance to America. And we see they don't believe in having any allegiance to America. But look at this. Look at this. Used in context of patriotism, duty, obligation. Well, we know we're patriots of this land. We know we don't have a Lord, and that's something we're going to talk about too, because you're going to talk about common law, English common law. Wasn't no English common law implemented during the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments, honey. I don't know what that ACLU attorney was talking about. Okay, we got to get to the next one that you will hear him speak on. Here we go. Domicile. That's the word, though. That's going to be the word. Domicile. Okay? You're going to hear them continuously talk about domicile. Domicile. Well, okay. Here we go with the domicile. All right? Let's get up there. A domicile is a person's fixed, permanent home and legal residence to which they intend, okay, it's slow, into which they intend to return, distinguishing it from temporary residences. It determines legal jurisdiction for taxes, voting, and estate matters. A person can only have one domicile. Why are you messing with me? A person can only have one domicile, which is required at birth and maintained until a new one is established. What? Wait. Okay, let's process this. Let's process this definition. Okay, let's process this definition. And subject to the jurisdiction thereof applies foundational Black Americans because the United States was our only country of jurisdiction. There you go, ma'am. There you go. Yes, ma'am. That's a part of the 14th Amendment. And you will wait till we get to the audio. As soon as we get into the audio, you're gonna hear this. It will come up. Again, I will reread. A domicile is a person's fixed, permanent home and legal residence to which they intend to return, distinguishing it from temporary residences. It determines legal jurisdiction for taxes, voting, and estate matters. And a person can only have one domicile, which is acquired at birth. Okay, what did y'all say? Y'all hear that? A person can only have one domicile, which is acquired at birth and maintained until it is established. Okay, now let's go with the term. We got 4 terms. I want y'all to make sure you get in this live or in this moment, so you understand as we go through the audio. You have an understanding. We're gonna go with this one. Miss Worlds 5726 over there. She already got it down. She where I'm going. Go ahead, sister. You working with me. You working with me. Okay. Jurisdiction is the legal authority of a court, a government entity, to exercise control, interpret, and apply the law within a specific territory over certain subjects. It determines where a case can be filed, venue, and ensures a court has the proper power over the individuals, the personal, and the subject matter involved. Now, okay, we're going to go to the subject matter because we know our ancestors were the subject matter in the 14th Amendment with the jurisdiction. Because we already know our ancestors were what? Enslaved as property. Right? Okay. All right. So then they had to make sure that they were legal. So they applied a law, right? They moved out of chattel slavery, right? And we had ancestors that also went to court to fight for their freedom, and some of them won. If people don't know, right? So the power over specific parties involved in a lawsuit. We have courts and all of that. We have the Constitution. We have the Constitution listed here. How is jurisdiction determined? Right? Okay. It outlines the fundamental limits of judicial power. Legislative bodies define what cases specific court here, the Supreme Court. Right? Okay. All right. So now we're going to go to this. So you all know, you will hear this too in the arguments, and we're going to listen to, I'm going to skip around in the arguments. Okay, so you're going to hear the General Solicitor John Sauer. He's going to speak about this. A sojourn is a temporary stay, visit, or brief residence in a place, often used to describe a vacation or a pause during travels. And it, as a verb, it means to reside temporarily. So you will hear this again, a temporary stay. An alien that comes to this country is a sojourner. They're not legal citizens. They don't have a permanent residence here. And then the jurisdiction of the courts does not apply to them because they're not citizens. They're not under the Constitution of the United States. Really, they're not. Because even, I'm going to go to something. Once we get started, I have to go to the global record. Okay, so those are 4 terms I want you all to remember for throughout the audio. And then I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you this, and we're going to get into it. We're going to really get into it from here. Give me 1 second, and I will show you the global record. Something from the global record that was stated that now we have immigrants on this soil. Oh, I should, you know what? I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to show you the global record, and then I'm going to show you the definition of freedmen. I got to show you the definition of freedmen. Okay, because it comes with the 14th Amendment. All right, so I will share this, and it's highlighted in the global record over the discussion of what they meant by the 14th Amendment and who it was being applied to. It's clear. It's very clear on what it means. But for some reason, the insane and retarded immigrants, and I'm saying it, I don't care what nobody say, the insane and retarded immigrants want to interpret it as something different. But we know they're insane and retarded, okay? So I'm gonna just use the president's retarded, and I'm saying they insane, so I'm putting both of them together. And if somebody has a problem with it, that's not my issue. Quit. So, and anybody have a problem with me saying it to immigrants that is freedmen? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? You got babies. You got a lineage here, a legacy here, and you ready to turn it over to some beings that haven't contributed anything to this country? I'm not doing that. I'm not aligning with that. Okay, let's see. It's on my screen here. Let's see. It's buffering. Okay. When I'm not doing video, it looks like it works really well with the transference on the machines. Okay. So I want to make this bigger for you so you can read what is there. I want you to see what he says and what he means by citizenship. Let's see. Can I make this bigger? I thought I could make this bigger than what it is. Let's see. Let me go here. I'm going to, oops. Okay. That's not, okay, hold on. I think I lost something. Oh, I went to the wrong one. Over here on the X side. I went to the wrong one. Give me a moment. Okay, let me go back. And I want to make it bigger so you all can read it for yourselves. Okay, here we go. All right. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And oops. Which one is going? It's crazy on me now. Let's see. I'm going to stop sharing. Let me back. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, okay. Here we go. I don't know what happened. Maybe because I was hitting so many buttons. Let's see. Okay. All right. Okay. There we go. It's up on YouTube. And I want to make sure it is up on. Perfect. Okay. And then I'm going to change it up so you can read it. On StreamYard, and then I'll make it bigger so you can read it. I want you all to be able to read this. This is education. This is education. This is what we need to make sure our babies know. It's important. We got to teach the babies. Okay, here we go. So maybe this will be bigger. And you all can read along with me and what it states. Because it's very important that we read and understand what this says. Hold on. All right. I thought I could get it going in a different screen on StreamYard, so it'll be bigger for you to see. But the circle around here, this will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of government of the United States, but will include every other class of persons. It settles the great question of citizenship and removes all doubt as to what persons are or are not citizens of the United States. This has long been a great distinction in the jurisprudence and legislation of the country. Now, up here you hear in the top it says Mr. Howard. Now, mind you, this is the global record that they're referring to as well in the oral arguments. And he said, and this is a framer or crafter of the 14th Amendment. So he said that the First Amendment is a section declaring that all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof as citizens of the United States and wherein they reside. Now, I read that, I'm looking at, he means the born citizens, right? Right. He means the born citizens, us, natural. It says up here, This amendment, which I have offered, is simply regarded as the law of the land already, and every person born within the limits of the United States and subject to the jurisdiction is by virtue of natural law and national law of citizens of the United States. Okay? So I want to go back to that and process that one more time. We are already here. Our ancestors have already been here for 5 generations or more, right? At least 5 generations, 3, 4, 5 generations. We were already born here on the soil. We were in chattel slavery. So they had to make sure that we were acknowledged as citizens of the United States. Now, mind you, you're going to hear about the native tribes that was sovereign, right? Sovereign. And we know that under allegiance, they had no allegiance to the Americas because they were sovereign nations. They had their own nations and they were sovereign. Yes, Miss Worlds, we fought in every American war. Oh, now the native tribes would say this. I just want y'all to know that. The native tribes are saying they fought in every American war too. But mind you, they also were the ones that were helping us to be captured in the Fugitive Slave Act and also enslaved our people. So anyway, and they fought on the side of the Confederates in the Civil War. So you all, let's be real about the history, okay? So again, I'm reading this and interpreting this, that he is saying, hey, they're already born here, so by national and natural law, they are citizens. However, because they were in slavery, we have to clarify, and how we're going to clarify in this 14th Amendment is that any foreigners, aliens who belong to, or those that belong to families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but are not included. I read that that list with those commas, all those beings are not included. That's how I read it. Okay. So now let's go to Freedmen. So we all have an understanding of how they wrote Freedmen. Okay. So let's look at this. So nobody can say, you know what? I don't know what a freedman is. What's a freedman? We got people out there that will say that. They don't know what a freedman is. They don't understand the term freedman, or freedman doesn't apply to us right now. You will hear a lot of that. Freedman, the term freedman does not apply to us in this day and time. And I say to them, you're a lie. Because even the descendants of the tribes are claiming the term freedman right now. You have the Muskogee Creek freedmen that went to court to make sure that they received their rights via the tribes, via the Creek tribe. So, and that's recent legislation. That's recent law. So there's no way anybody's going to tell me that today we can't use our status of freedmen, because then all of this in the Constitution, who does it apply to? How do you define these beings on the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment that were formerly enslaved and or formerly enslaved and they were emancipated? You're now telling me that didn't exist? Or those beings and their offspring and their descendants are no longer here in America? No, because guess what? You also have Jim Crow that happened after that. That's those beings and their offspring. Then from there, you had the civil rights movement, right? So then there's that lineage and generations of that lineage having to fight these battles as Americans and patriots. As Americans and patriots, we're still having to fight for what is ours on our soil after our ancestors have dedicated so many things to building this country, developing it, advancing it, and then fighting for it. And now to have some Pajeets, Chinese, and others come here to this country and try to tell us that we're not deserving of anything here when we were here before they even got here. Inception of the United States of America, we were already on this soil. Who you think you talking to? Y'all gonna have to fight us and shed some blood over here for America, baby. You ain't finna come over here and just take in everything you want and thinking you're not gonna have to shed blood over here. We shed blood. We have shed blood on this soil. Our ancestors are buried and fertilized this soil. I am my ancestors. Okay, let's get it popping, y'all. Freedmen. Huh. Come on now. Y'all see this? Let me see. Okay, over here on the other side, let's see what's coming up. Let's see what's coming up. Because here is how freedmen is defined. And they also have it in the immigration naturalization, Hart-Celler, and all of these different. Oh, I should pull that up too. That might see. Y'all done got me on the road. It's there defined as a nationality. And we want to make sure President Trump reenacts our status, make sure he understands that utilizing freedmen status. Yes, the Democrats added the Immigration Act of 1965 to the Voting Rights Act. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. So they can circumvent, again, deploy every time immigrants come to this country. Who loses? Us. Us. And who is us? The freedmen. Us is the freedmen. Black Americans. We can, hey, you want to use race? We're the Black Americans. We've been the only Black people on this soil that in which race, the racial social construct, it to harm and injure. It's been the American freedmen. Jim Crow is where the racial social construct takes place after our ancestors were emancipated. They go from one thing to the next, y'all. Look at the play to keep taking us off the land. That's all it is. Every time you turn around, it's to take us off the land. Us, the Black Americans, the only Black people, because then, you know what? They feel that they can come over here and take over. And I think a lot of it is they think they can come over here and do what they want to do and take over because we are the descendants of slaves. So therefore, we're at the bottom and we are not to, I literally had a Jamaican tell me in my country, he come to my country to work and make money. He not in his country, but gonna tell me my people were slaves. So therefore, we don't deserve. If I had, y'all, let me tell you, I was ready to knock him out, and I'm a woman. I know that I'm not supposed to be doing such things, but that took me out. This is the things they say to our people. I to come up over here on YouTube, and we're gonna get into the audio and listen to what they have to say in the Supreme Court, and we're gonna break that down and go and move on. Immigrant domain to separate FBAs. Exactly. It's all about stopping us from so they can come over here and take over, and then want to act like they did everything. That's the ethnocide and genocide to me. That's a part of the ethnocide and genocide. In Argentina, go and study Argentina. They got rid of their Black people, y'all. They literally was able to get rid of their Black people over there. I shouldn't say they Black people. They're humiliated slaves over there. They were able to get rid of them. They barely have any after all that they did. Okay? We know that they were over there building, fighting wars, and doing all kinds of things for Argentina, and they are now basically non-existent. It's not going to happen here. It's not going to happen. No, we're not allowing such to happen here on our soil. So they better get it together. You're going to have to fight us over here. We already fought a civil war, baby. And we prevailed, and we're going to prevail again because we got the ancestors and God. We got the ancestors and God. We're too nice. That's what I'm saying. I'm over being nice to these. Well, you know what? Some people keep telling me, oh, we got to be politically correct. No, we don't, because they're not politically correct. You got to match their energy. I'm all about matching their energy, matching people's energy, right? You say some crazy stuff to me. Well, I'm not respecting you. I'm going to disrespect you just like you disrespected me. Where did that come? I'm not disrespecting you. Black Americans have not done anything to these other groups for them to have all this vitriol, all this vitriol against our people. We have not done anything to other beings for them to have all of this vitriol against our people. Nothing. We have fed them. We have helped them. And they got vitriol for us for what we have done to help them to have a better life in our country. Donald Trump, I know, that's why I like Trump. Trump can be petty. And I like Trump for being petty because I can be petty too. I'm spiritual, but I believe in being petty. Go ahead, Donald Trump. Keep being petty. I'm all with it. Okay, you all, let's see if this comes up now. We might have been able to adjust, and we're going to get into listening to the actual oral arguments. But I want you all to understand how they have defined freedmen. It's important for our people to understand this because this is not being taught in schools to our children. They don't want our children to know certain things. Okay, I think, let's see if we can bring it back up over here on YouTube. Okay. All right. So it's up on both screens. Let's see if we can get it going because I want this a part of the presentation live. So if you all want to use this video with other beings and other individuals, that you are getting this information. It is very important that our people get this information and how all of this is happening for us. And they're us targeted. The Americans, patriots of the land, we are being targeted. We have plenty of Black men that have sacrificed, and women, right? But plenty of them that have sacrificed to fight wars for this country. And we should be reaping all kinds of rewards and accolades for everything that we've done for this country. And one of the things I do like about President Trump is that he states this. He will state this. No other president has ever stated that and continues to restate it so the whole world knows and understands, right? That he does give us our prop. And even more reason why I say we got to make sure we're sitting at the table talking with Trump, not these bootlicks and Black leadership, because they ain't gonna do nothing for you. They're insane. They cray. They don't even look at the bigger picture and what is ours and we can get whatever we want. No, they'll go in cowering. Oh, we can't do everything. We gotta do bit by a little piece here and a little piece there. And excuse me, okay. They like to piecemeal stuff and then everybody else getting everything. Chinese Chinese don't even have no inventions, as many inventions as us over here on this soil. But the Chinese barely even vote. But the Chinese got a hate crime bill. Y'all help me with this. They were not being lynched. Chinese were not being lynched. But they got a hate crime bill. Chinese are not even listed on your via the FBI hate crimes. It's us. Black Americans are listed as the most with hate crimes. And they got a hate crime bill, y'all. Come on now. And they don't vote like we do. They don't even have the population like we do. They don't have the history like we do, but they got a hate crime bill. And they got an Asian Pacific Islander office via your girl. Y'all want to claim as Black. That's crazy in itself. Up here trying to claim an immigrant that lived in Canada, don't even have no lineage here, and y'all want to claim that hoe as Black. And she's straight up taking testimony and being sworn in as an Asian Pacific Islander. And y'all want to try to tell us she Black. Her mama a straight up Pajit, Hindu, Brahmin, whatever, and y'all gonna try to tell us she black. Like that is some that y'all don't see. I rated an Asian food hall with a negative review for treating American freedmen staffers and customers with respect in Woodbridge. Okay, good deal. We need to make sure people understand. We don't have to take this treatment. Why are we accepting this treatment from these people? Or I shouldn't say these people, these beings. Why would you accept this type of treatment from these beings when they don't deserve anything here? Nothing here for them. This is all ours. Why is it not coming up over here on okay, it's up. Okay, all right. You all see this? Freedmen. It's defined. I'm gonna read it. Freedmen is defined here. So as used in a will devising property to the Freedmen's Association was held to refer that the class of persons. Okay. What did that global record say? Class of persons who were emancipated during the late Civil War and their descendants. What? Okay. The terms freedman, free woman, defining persons of color, including all free Negroes, mulattoes, all freedmen and all freed women, and all descendants through either sex of these persons must be regarded as indicating a class which had been in slavery. Right? And in contradiction to previously, it says, I think in contradistinction to previously freed Negroes, mulatto, and mestizo. So they were all still including them as free. That's how I read this. But we can go back and we can tackle this. But at the day, it still says here, refer to the class of persons who were emancipated during the late Civil War and their descendants. Don't let nobody tell you we can't use that status. And we up here talking about the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment right now. The Constitution did not change. When did the Constitution change? When was there an amendment to the Constitution? On the 13th Amendment or the 14th Amendment or the 15th Amendment? Now, they passed some laws and statutes that supposedly to protect under the 15th Amendment, the voting, right? But because they still allowed the Confederates to go retake over the land. They still allowed the Confederates to still stay here after being traitors. And this is the reason why we still have problems today, because a lot of them have recruited immigrants that also think like they're cray, insane, psychotic, psychopath, sociopath. Period. There's no reason to be attacking us. None whatsoever. Because we are not out here attacking other people. And then they want to talk about black on black crime, your culture, something wrong with your culture. Nothing wrong with my culture, baby. We diamonds. We are diamonds. Under pressure, we are able to just build, right? We polished. Right? You know how diamonds are made? No, that's not immigrants. You ain't got the mental fortitude, baby. You ain't even got the intelligence. Okay, all right, I'm gonna stop because I'll go on and on because at this point in time, I'm over it. We're gonna start listening to some of the oral arguments, and I'm going to stop and punch play and here and there, just go over a little stuff with history with you all so you understand what he's talking about and the moment and what was happening during those times. So, okay, let me go. I'll share. We're going to get that oral arguments going and we're going to listen to what they have to say. Okay? So, let's see. The audio. This is what I want us to hear. Let's see it come up on the screen. And Now I have done it, out on YouTube, but I also started a little bit late. We're gonna get to the beginning of the oral arguments here. We're gonna listen to the beginning, and I'm not really interested in what the other chick has to say, but we might do a little snippet of her from the ACLU, and you all, she's an Asian, and she keeps going back to British common law. Well, here's what I say about this. You're an immigrant, and you don't know the interpretation, how to interpret American law, period. Because if you understood American history, you'll know that the 14th Amendment has nothing to do with English common law, because they strayed from that, honey. It doesn't even apply. Okay, all right. So let's listen, and then I may stop and go back into it. You know what? I wanted to do one thing. Let's see. Let me see if I can share where we can have the docket up along with the oral arguments. Let's see if I can do that. Let's see if that'll work. Because I want to put up two documents. I want you to hear the oral arguments, and I want you to have the docket there as well. I don't know if it'll allow me to do this. Oh, okay, it won't. Let's see. No, it won't allow me to have two. Dang, okay. I wanted to have two in here. Let's see if it'll allow me to do this. Okay. Now let's listen to the beginning. And we're going to stop and listen. We're going to stop and process the beginning of this because it's hilarious.
We will hear argument this morning in case 25-365, Trump versus Barbara. General Sauer.
Mr. Chief Justice, and may it please the court. The Citizenship Clause was adopted just after the Civil War to grant citizenship to the newly freed slaves and their children, whose allegiance to the United States Congress used the term not subject to any foreign power in the Civil Rights Act of 1866. It rejected the British conception of allegiance. Senator Trumbull explained that subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and the clause means not owing allegiance to anybody else. In 1884, this court recognized that subject to the jurisdiction means owing direct and immediate allegiance. The clause thus does not extend citizenship to the children of temporary visa holders or illegal aliens. Unlike the newly freed slaves, those visitors lack direct and immediate allegiance to the United States. For aliens, lawful domicile is the status that creates the requisite allegiance, and the text of the clause presupposes domicile. For decades following the clause's adoption, commentators recognize that the children of temporary visitors are not citizens, and illegal aliens lack the legal capacity to establish domicile here. Unrestricted birthright citizenship contradicts the practice of the overwhelming majority of modern nations. It demeans the priceless and profound gift of American citizenship. It operates as a powerful pull factor for illegal immigration and rewards illegal aliens who not only violate the immigration laws, but also jump in front of those who follow the rules. It has spawned a sprawling industry of birth tourism as uncounted thousands of foreigners from potentially hostile nations have flocked to give birth in the United States in recent decades, creating a whole generation of American citizens abroad with no meaningful ties to the United States. I welcome the court's questions.
General Sauer, before we get into the broader national issues, would you start with Dred Scott? Dred Scott was a case about state citizenship. It was a diversity case. And of course, we know what Chief Justice Taney did with that. How does the Citizenship Clause respond to Dred Scott and answers or changes or corrects its answer as to citizenship? The other point is the citizenship clause refers not just to national citizenship, but also to state citizenship. Are we to have two different definitions for those? It's one word, citizens of the United States and citizens of the state wherein they reside. So as you begin, I'd like you to go back at the beginning and be more specific about the answer. And I want you to explain whether or not those two definitions are the same or related, and what state citizenship is based on.
Thank you, Justice Thomas. I'll maybe start by addressing Dred Scott. As you alluded to the fact, Dred Scott, imposed one of the worst injustices in the history of this court, and it led to the outbreak of the Civil War. It's very clear, and this court in all of its early cases interpreting the 14th Amendment said, the one pervading purpose, the main object of the citizenship clause is to overrule Dred Scott and establish the citizenship of the freed slaves. If you look at the debates in the congressional record and discussion surrounding the adoption of the citizenship clause, what you see is a very clear understanding that the newly freed slaves and their children have a relationship of domicile. They do not have a relationship to any foreign power. For example, there's the comment where he says, look, people have been here for 5 generations and clearly have no relationships to any foreign African potentate, or have a relationship of allegiance to the United States. And that reinforces our point that allegiance is what the word jurisdiction means. It doesn't mean regulatory jurisdiction or sort of being merely subject to the laws. They're talking and they're thinking about it in those debates about allegiance. Now, as to your second question, if you look at the text of the clause, we believe it says, born in the United States, born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and the states of which they reside. So there's a constitutional guarantee that applies to both federal or national and state citizenship. And the key point we make there is that word reside, if you look at, for example, section 1473 of Justice Story's commentaries, was understood to mean domicile. So when they say subject to the jurisdiction, and then they go on to say you're a citizen of the United States, the state in which they reside, the very text of the clause itself presupposes that the citizen is domiciled in the United States. If they're present in the state, they reside there. Reside means domicile in the Constitution, and we think that strongly supports our interpretation. It's textual evidence of our domicile-based theory of jurisdiction.
Well, starting with that theory, you obviously put a lot of weight on subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
Okay, all right. I just want to highlight you all. He said, did you all not hear Solicitor General state that the people, the slaves, had already been here 5 generations? So therefore, this is the residence and allegiance to America. Okay, all right. He said it. He said it. I love the fact that Clarence Thomas starts off with the Dred Scott, right? Because when he starts off with talking about the Dred Scott, and then John Sauer, the general solicitor, is able to say that's the most egregious thing that they did in this court to these beings. This is Trump administration. But he acknowledges that we don't have no allegiance to no African potentate. And what we got Africans over here now talking about, we need to fight for reparations for y'all. You need to be the 6th part of the union, of the African Union. Even they have acknowledged we are not any kind of relatives of Africans at this point in time, y'all. So why are Africans trying to fight for some reparations with the United States, including us, all of a sudden? Okay, just have to point that out. They for real now. They out here talking. And let's get into the jurisdiction. You heard them talk about the allegiance a little bit. Now they're going to get into the jurisdiction. Let's hear it.
But the examples you give to support that strike me as very quirky. Children of ambassadors, children of enemies during a hostile invasion, children on warships, and then you expand it to the whole class of illegal aliens are here in the country. I'm not quite sure how you can get to that big group from such tiny and sort of idiosyncratic examples.
There are those sort of narrow exceptions for ambassador foreign public ships. Tribal lineage is an enormous one that they were very focused on in the debates as well. But what I do is I invite the court to look at the intervening step, which is the enactment of the Civil Rights Act of 1866. And there they didn't say subject to the jurisdiction thereof. There it says not subject to any foreign power. Now, if you go back to Blackstone and Calvin's case, they say it does not matter if you are subject to any foreign power. If you are born in the king's domains, you have this indefeasible duty of allegiance to the king at any time. So there's a clear repudiation in the Civil Rights Act. The Civil Rights Act is this breakwater which makes it very, very clear that they are not thinking about allegiance in the terms of like the British common law. They've adopted the Republican conception of allegiance. So it's from not subject to any foreign power, and then the debates just a couple months later make it very clear that they're recodifying the same conception. They were dissatisfied with the potential ambiguity in the phrase Indians not taxed, and they adopted subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And one of the strongest statements of this is Senator Trumbull's statement that I quoted at the beginning, where he says, he's asked, what does that mean, subject to the jurisdiction thereof? And he says, it means not owing allegiance to anybody else. That is what it means. And this court picked up on that in Elk against Wilkins when it says it uses, completely subject to the political jurisdiction, not mere regulatory jurisdiction.
What do you do with Wong Kim Ark's quote of Daniel Webster, who said, independently of a residence, with intention to continue such residence, independently of any domiciliation, independently of the taking of any oath of allegiance or renouncing any former allegiance, it is well known that by the public law, a non-citizen, while he is here in the United States, owes obedience to this country's laws. Now, the examples that Wong R. Kim used as exceptions are situations in which there was not temporary allegiance to the United States. The children of foreign diplomats whose only allegiance was to their foreign country, and or occupied territory residents, including those citizens in Maine who had been occupied by the British forces. The US had no control over them. The whole theory of the Indian tribes was similar. The Indian tribes were analogized to foreign diplomats. So what do we do with that?
I'd say two things. First, as the Indian tribes, we think that's a case that strongly supports us because, of course, by 1866 and 1868, there was strong understanding that the Indian tribes were subject to the United States' regulatory jurisdiction.
But not the same way that temporary foreigners were, meaning there was a real debate going on whether the U.S. actually had jurisdiction over Indian tribes. That's why our cases, for the longest time, until that was finally settled, said, absent some act of Congress, our laws don't apply. U.S. laws don't apply to Indians on Indian lands, correct?
I believe you look at the Rogers decision, for example, that we cite in our brief, where they say that they are subject to the United States.
That's later. I'm talking at the time.
Yes, at the time. So as to 1817.
So what do you do during the debates of the 1866 Civil Rights Act and of the 14th Amendment, with the entire discussion of the people who opposed the amendment, who kept saying, we can't pass it because we're making citizens of gypsies who have no allegiance to anybody, and we're going to make citizens of Chinese people who can't be citizens because we're not going to permit them to be citizens. What do we do with those debates and the fact that the proponents of both acts said everyone who's born in the U.S. will be citizens?
First, that particular change, 2890 of the Congressional Record from 1866, Senator Cowan gives this virulently racist statement where he says that. And what does he say at the beginning of that sort of offensive speech? He says, we can't have children of gypsies, children of Chinese immigrants. We can't have them become citizens. And he says, quote, have they any more rights than a sojourner in the United States? So he's trying to persuade the Republicans to his view by appealing to a common understanding that sojourners do not have children who become citizens. So there's powerful evidence there that everybody understood this to, not sweep in the temporary sojourner. And that's why you see for 40, 50 years, you see every commentator who addresses the specific question of temporary presence saying it's not covered by the clause, including for decades after Wong Kim Ark.
General, can I take you back to the Chief Justice's question about the specific exceptions to birthright?
Okay, I just want to highlight that they are speaking about all these different exceptions that we just read in Global Record. Okay, that was what we just read in the Global Record: foreigners, aliens, children or ambassadors that are here, as you know, included in the United States, but at the same time, their children, any foreigners, aliens, are not. These are the exceptions, right, to this citizenship. But now all of a sudden they're confused, right? They're debating if the framers actually meant what they stated in congressional record that they already discussed. Howard already laid it out. But we're going through this all over again because of the Democrat Party that is also the domestic terrorist party in our United States government, now wanting to misinterpret or reinterpret the 14th Amendment to include birthright citizenship for legal aliens and foreigners that want to traffic their children over here on the soil. That's the way I look at it. But let's continue so you all can hear the basis of the argument and the debate, and we're going to get to some other things.
Citizenship that everybody seems to agree were recognized under the common law. And it brings up an important principle about how we interpret the law. When particular problems pop up, lawmakers may enact a general rule. When they do that, is the application of that general rule limited only to the situations that they had in mind when they adopted the general rule? Or do we say they adopted a general rule, they meant for that to apply to later applications that might come up? Justice Scalia had an example that dealt with this situation. He imagined an old theft statute that was enacted well before anybody conceived of a microwave oven, and then afterwards someone is charged with the crime of stealing a microwave oven, and this fellow says, well, I can't be convicted under this because the microwave oven didn't exist at that time. And he dismissed that. There's a general rule there, and you apply it to future applications. And what we're dealing with here is something that was basically unknown at the time when the 14th Amendment was adopted, which is illegal immigration. So how do we deal with that situation when we have a general rule?
Yeah, I strongly agree with the way that you framed it, that there is a general principle, that's a broad principle that's adopted the phrase subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And we submit that our theory of allegiance and domicile-based allegiance is what explains those specific exceptions that everybody was aware of, but it is broad enough to sweep in future situations. And as you pointed out, illegal immigration did not exist then. Now, the problem of temporary visitors did exist. And it's very interesting that as you look at pages 26 and 28 of our brief, commentators going from 1881 until 1922 are uniformly saying the children of temporary visitors are not included. Now, that logic, we say, it naturally extends. It's really an a fortiori case. If you have someone who enters illegally by the 1880s, there are restrictions on immigration. If you've entered illegally, it's kind of, a well-established principle of law going back to the Code of Justinian that says you're not allowed to be there. You don't have the legal capacity to create domicile.
But I think, General Sauer, that what you just said suggests that you can't be arguing in the way Justice Alito suggests, because most of your brief is not about illegal aliens. Most of your brief is about people who are just temporarily in the country, where there was quite clearly an experience of, an understanding of, that there were going to be temporary inhabitants. And your whole theory of the case is built on that group. You don't get to talking about undocumented persons until quite later and at much lesser I think it's like 10 pages to 3 pages or something like that. So you can't really be going with Justice Alito's theory. You must be saying that there's a principle that developed, that was there at the time of the 14th Amendment. Isn't that right?
We agree there's a principle there at the 14th Amendment. It is the jurisdiction means allegiance, the allegiance of and this is very strong in the 19th century sources, the allegiance of an alien present in another country is determined by domicile. And that goes back to the Venus and the Pizarro. It goes through the Katza affair in 1853. It comes right up to Fong Yui Ting and Lau Al-Bu that are decided shortly before Wong Kim Ark. So that's the principle. That principle clearly applies here. I also respectfully disagree.
Yeah, and I guess, Mr. General Sauer, where does this principle come from? Allegiance, domicile. Allegiance, I think you point to a Lincoln funeral speech as your primary example of where this principle comes from. It's certainly not what we think of when we think of the word jurisdiction, and I appreciate that jurisdiction has many meanings, but the first meaning is like, if you're subject to jurisdiction, you're subject to the authority of. One doesn't say, oh, what that means is a certain kind of allegiance that domiciliaries have and nobody else does. So the text of the clause, I think, does not support you. I think you're sort of looking for some more technical, esoteric meaning. And then the question comes, okay, if the text doesn't support you, if there's a real history of people using it that way, but as far as I can tell, at the time of the 14th, you're using some pretty obscure sources to get to this concept.
Well, I take it straight from the framers' mouths. So, for example, Senator Trumbull was asked, what does jurisdiction mean? He means subject to the jurisdiction. He said, what does that mean? He says it means not owing allegiance to anybody else. He is the principal framer of the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Representative Bingham, who's the framer of the 14th Amendment, is asked, what does it mean in the congressional record at page 1291? He says, within the jurisdiction of the United States of parents not owing allegiance to any foreign sovereignty. And we've cited many, many examples where the congressional debates reflect that. Then you referred to the oration of George Bancroft. That's one of probably 16 sources. There's at least 13, counting that one in the 12 treatises we cited, pages 26 to 28 of our brief. There's over a dozen sources that specifically address temporary sojourners. In the 5 decades after the enactment of the amendment, every single one of them says, well, temporary sojourners, their children are not included, including for 2 decades after Wong Kim Ark. So
if domiciles.
Oh, okay. I wanted to go back just a little bit. I probably should have highlighted this when it came up. The Civil Rights Act. I'm just going to read it off. You all can just Google, but I'm just going to read it off. I just Googled Civil Rights Act of 1866. Okay. The Civil Rights Act of 1866 was enacted on April 9, 1866, and was the first U.S. federal law to define all persons born in the United States, except untaxed Indians, as citizens, guaranteeing them equal rights regardless of race and previous enslaved status. Okay. If they're building the 14th Amendment off the Civil Rights Act of 1866, it still has nothing to do with illegal aliens or sojourners, as they're talking about right now. Okay? It says the Civil Rights Act of 1866 aimed to protect newly free slaves by guaranteeing legal rights, including owning property, making contracts, and assessing federal courts, bypassing discriminatory state black codes. Okay, this is a basis, he said it, of the 14th Amendment. Protect us, and this is why I say in the petition for the OMB, not only that we make sure delineating because of the 14th Amendment and utilizing our freedmen status, but we have the right to own property, which they keep taking from us. We have legal rights of going to the courts. That's reparations. And it's all based on the black codes, which does not include no freaking immigrants that were here under Jim Crow. Because it all goes back to the Freedmen. That's linked to, again, the Civil Rights Act links us to the 14th Amendment, period. It's the basis of the 14th Amendment. Where is there anything that says that these illegals, even, it says Indians, untaxed Indians are not citizens at that point in time. So how is an illegal alien in this day and time, and we're utilizing the 14th Amendment, able to come have a baby on the soil and claim that that child is a citizen? Y'all help me out. These people are cray-cray. They're insane. They are retards. Because it's right here. We can link this. If you're intelligent, I'm going to say it, and we're not low IQ as all the white races like, or racist, because we got here melanated races here too now. We got races that are Indian, Brahmin, Indian up in here now. So we can't even put white supremacy on it anymore. We can just put immigrant supremacy on the racism that's happening right now. And Trump is an immigrant, but you don't see him acting like these fools, okay? But anyway, it says legal impact. It served as the model for the 14th Amendment, which was ratified in 1868 to permanently solidify citizenship rights. Okay, all right, okay. I have to put that out there. Now, when we look at Wong Kim Ark, that part, okay. So I got you. Send me your emails, you all. We need your support. So the total had hot mess. I hope the Supreme Court is in favor of birthright citizenship, specifically for the freedmen. They're going to have to be. I'm going to say this. If they're not, you all, that means we don't have an America. Because they're breaching the Constitution. That will mean we don't have an America. And immigrants have succeeded in their coup d'etat of this American government. And I think that's why Trump is making sure he ties up every loophole right now while he's in office again, because they did steal the election. They stole that 2020 election, you all. It's no doubt. It's all coming out. Okay, so Wong Kim Ark. Okay, they affirmed birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment. The court ruled 6-2 that a man born to Chinese immigrant parents was a U.S. citizen. But the thing that they don't like to highlight about Wong Kim Ark is his parents were permanent residents. They were not U.S. citizens, but they were in a status, right? So, and they argued that his parents were citizens of China, so he could not be a citizen of the U.S. because he was detained after he went to visit and came back here. And they supposedly used that, born or naturalized, that, they had jurisdiction. But again, you hear General Solicitor Sauer speak about residence and domicile, right? They were here. Illegal aliens don't have a residence in any state. Therefore, they don't have residence in the United States to have jurisdiction. It's, to me, the dots connect, and it's very easy. And then on top of that, they're sojourns. They're just here, right? If they come in here on a visa, you're a sojourn. You're here for a vacation. You're here for a limited amount of time. You're still not planning to stay here in America because you don't even have citizenship here, right? And this is a part of the H-1B visas as well. And now they're getting rid of even permanent residents to be able to apply for certain things here in America. I say get rid of it all. If you are not going through our proper process of legally coming here through the Naturalization Act, your children, I don't care how many of you come over here on a visa, permanent resident, your children are not citizens of the United States of America, period. And this is really saying this, right? What they want Somebody said, well, they didn't write this expecting this to happen in the future. Well, to me, they had enough insight to cover everything and make sure that 14th Amendment applied to our people, specifically to our people. So, okay, let's get back to it. Let's hear, and there, you see how they're questioning General Solicitor John Sauer to any way possible to find a loophole where they can say that these illegals can be legal. Even during that time when no immigration laws, he's like, but they're sojourners, right? They're not here to permanently. Most of them were coming as sojourners. But mind you, there was the 1790 Naturalization Act. They did have the 1790 Naturalization Act, where they did immigrants could come here, and as long as they were good citizens, yes. It was 1790 was the first U.S. law to establish uniform rules for citizenship, limiting naturalization to free white persons of good character after 2 years of residency. Okay? So they still had to go through naturalization. And the 14th Amendment clearly states born or naturalized. And you having a baby on the soil and you are not yet naturalized and you're illegal and you're a sojourn and you don't have a domicile here. You don't even have allegiance here either. So therefore, there's no jurisdiction. That's how I go with it in my mind. But y'all know, we're dealing with psychopaths, some that have psychosis. We're dealing with sociopaths, just demonic. That's what we're dealing with. So, we kind of have to go with their thinking, their interpretation. And every time I look at their interpretation, it's wild. It's out there. I'm like, where did they get this retarded thought from? But anyway, let's get back to it.
The key linchpin to your argument, and I take it that it is, do we look at how domicile was understood in 1868? Or do we look at it how it's understood today in context of the INA?
The 1868 understanding, not aware of a strong difference between those.
Well, here's where I'm going with it. I'm just working within your argument for a moment. Today, you can point to laws against immigration that are much more restrictive than they were in 1868. We really didn't have laws like that we do today until maybe 1880. So if somebody showed up here in 1868 and established domicile, that was perfectly fine without respect to anything, any immigration laws. There they were. And so why wouldn't we, even if we were to apply your own test, come to the conclusion that the fact that someone might be illegal is immaterial?
I would first cite Wong Kim Mark on that point, because Wong Kim Mark says you're.
Well, I'm not sure how much you want to rely on Wong Kim Mark.
But there is a statement in there that says, so long as they are permitted to be. So Wong Kim Mark, keep in mind that by the time they decide Wong Kim Mark in 1898.
But that's 1898. Now I'm looking at 1868. You're telling me is when I should look, and the test for domicile. And the stuff you have about unlawfully present is like Roman law sources you're going to.
First and second restatements as well, and decisions of this court.
So it wouldn't be the INA that would control whether you're capable of having domicile. It would be whatever the law was in 1868.
Well, I think that this is addressed by my exchange with Justice Alito from earlier, which is that this concept, jurisdiction, baking in allegiance and domicile,
Congress could continually restrict who may lawfully be present more and more, and you'd say that would be incorporated into it, even though you're telling us to apply the original meaning of 1868.
The original meaning of domicile. And so the question is there any argument that the framers intended to preclude Congress from dictating who can and who cannot establish a lawful domicile here? I don't see any evidence of that in the congressional record, so it's a natural extension.
Whose domicile matters? I mean, it's not the child, obviously. It's the parents you'd have us focus on. And, what if, is it the husband? Is it the wife? What if they're unmarried? Whose domicile?
Well, in the executive order, it draws a distinction between the mother and the father, and it's really the mother's domicile. I think that would matter
Well,
there.
but
because that's
1868 matters, you're telling us. So what's the answer?
the 1868 sources talk about parental. I'm not aware of them drawing a distinction between mother or father, but they say the domicile of the child follows the domicile of the parents.
And how are we going to determine domicile? I mean, would we use contemporary sources on what qualifies as domicile in a state, or do we look in 1868? And do we have to do this for every single person?
And again, I don't see a strong distinction between those because, of course, domicile is a high-level concept, has been pretty consistent over centuries, which is lawful presence with the intent to remain permanently. That domicile, when you come to a new nation, you say, I'm here to stay, you become part of their political community, and you become akin to a citizen. And that's reflected very strongly in the case I cited before.
And just to circle back to Justice Kagan's point, it's striking that in none of the debates do we have parents discussed. We have the child's citizenship, and the focus of the clause is on the child, not on the parents. You don't see domicile mentioned in the debates. That's the absence is striking.
I think the 19th century sources would say a newborn child lacks the capacity to form a domicile, so they're imputed the domicile of their parents. So I don't think they would have seen a distinction between children and parents. And I point out that their position, like ours, is forced to look at the domicile of the parents because we look at the exceptions that they accept, like
I'm talking about
tribal Indians and so forth.
I'm talking about in the debates over the 14th Amendment and the Civil Rights Act. It's striking that these concepts aren't discussed in them.
I think domicile is discussed. I mean, it's brought up in many.
Allegiance, jurisdiction, complete jurisdiction.
Well, I mean, here's just a few examples. Page 1679 of the Congressional Record, President Johnson vetoes the first version of the Civil Rights Act, and he says, I can't sign this because it would extend citizenship to the children of, quote, all domiciled aliens and foreigners, even if not naturalized. And you have all the other sources we cited that say, this is a deeply rooted 19th century understanding. It's reflected in the Venus. It's reflected in the Pizarro in 1814 and 1817. It carries through the 19th century. And this court is talking about it in 1892 and 1893 when it's discussing the Chinese Exclusion Tax. Domicile is the key concept that creates allegiance. That's
General,
you said in your reply brief that
okay. I'm going to stop there, and you hear I think that's Amy Garrett and then Sotomayor, and when we get into them, and Ketanji Brown. Oh my gosh! But anyway, you all went to the parents. Okay, I stopped here because we're going to talk about the whole parent thing, right? Here's a little history. When we look at our ancestors and chattel slavery and the parents didn't have a choice. And they didn't, and this is where I was like, if we had a Black American freedman or American freedman arguing this in the Supreme Court, when they mentioned parents, we could easily have gone to partis vin partem. And I don't know if you all know what partis vin partem is, and that is basically, the birth and child, the baby is of the womb of the mother. So therefore, this is where the mother status for us changes from the man, the status of the man being the dictating of the domicile rights or anything like that of a child to the mother. Okay, and this is where I say there is a divergence when a separation, I should say, when this ACLU attorney keeps talking about English common law, because for us as the freedmen, this wasn't the truth. That was not English common law. Guess what, you all? Let me go ahead and let you know that they implemented laws called partis vin partem because they had the children of the slaves taking on the status of the mother. This wasn't doctrine, it's partis sequitur ventrum, right? Offspring follows the belly, and that is of the mother. It's a 17th century legal doctrine adopted in the American colonies in 1662 in Virginia. So this decreed that a child's legal status, free or enslaved, was determined by the status of the mother. Hence the reason why now when we hear people talk about, the Black American culture is the maternal side leads the culture most times, right? They try to say, we don't have men leading our culture or our families because of this. This is a part of it. It's legally codified in chattel slavery and ensured that children of enslaved women remain property of the slaveholder. Okay? Disregarding the status of the father. This is what we live through. So this is when I get, John Sauer, he can only do so much, but I don't know if a Freedman on his team or not. But this could have been a whole nother discussion in the debate. Okay, now I'm gonna go a little bit further with it so you all understand. They know this because it's documented under law. Okay, I'll list this as a resource for you all to go back and read for yourselves. But I want y'all to understand that the status of the illegitimates and the status of the slaves were almost identical in sanctioned structural lineage. The laws of slavery required that the status of the child followed that of the mother, not that of the father, as for non-slaves. Similarly, intestacy laws ensured that the status and rights of the non-marital children arose only from the mother. The category of illegitimacy, in addition to its independent concerns, perhaps also should be understood as a form of racial classification and a vestige of slavery. Okay? However, there were two significant differences. First, slave children were not guaranteed the lineage of their mothers, as mother and child were still subject to sale. Okay, so even when they put these laws, they still made sure if an illegitimate child, and we know what an illegitimate child is, right? Supposedly they're not married. It still took on the status of the mother. And that could be somebody mixed race, they could be free, but they still took on the status of their mother. You all, this was law. So when this ACLU attorney comes back with English common law, shut up and sit down, okay? You don't know American history when you up here arguing about the 14th Amendment for some immigrants. This is how deep this goes. And they don't even want to recognize this, right? They don't want to recognize this part because guess what? That goes back into our 14th Amendment, Civil Rights Act. You all see where I'm coming from? This all goes back into, yes, we're the foundation of this country. Yes. Don't let nobody tell you you're not a stakeholder, shareholder of America. All of this is ours. None of this is the immigrants. None of it. And I'm going to say it. I'm going to keep saying it. And if anybody have a problem with it, you can come talk to me because I'm going to make sure you understand and you know. Because this is laws. These are laws on the books, specifically against our people. Here's the reason why our culture is a maternal culture. They created it in that way. In some regards. They denied our men their status. And now you're going to stand up here and try to tell me and tell us that we are wrong for standing up for who we are after everything that has happened to the effects, the badges, the vestiges of slavery is in full effect right now. The past is culminating right now with this present moment. And then you got these fools out here trying to tell you, oh, you need to get over it. You need to move forward. You need to move on. Everything's right here in our face 24/7 because y'all keep doing shit. Oh, see, okay. I'm supposed to be professional. But anyway, hi. So you all know when they talk about the parents, why they're eliminating the status of the parents. Because when you go back to it, to the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment and chattel slavery, the parents didn't matter, right? And then if the parents didn't matter because the white man was raping the black woman, they made sure, because they were having all these illegitimate children they didn't want to take care of. Come on now. So they made sure that the child and the mother were enslaved. So the white man was procreating with the black woman so that he could make sure that he had a slave. He could sell his own child. So when you hear people talk about, oh, the baby daddy, who's the first baby daddy in America not taking care of their children? Thomas Jefferson had all those babies by Sally Hemings, and then didn't release her and give her freedom. Then he sold some of her children into slavery. This is a past founder and president of the United States of America. We got the bloodline, right? We Americans. I mean, it's bad that we have to highlight this trauma, this craziness, because these beings are trying to take us off the soil, but we got bloodlines of past founders of this country and presidents because of rape and pedophilia. And they want to tell us that our culture is bad. Something's wrong with our culture. No, you're not. Not on my watch. Not today. No, you're not. Okay? This is real, you all. This is real. I hear you, Cal Cash. We got to be real about what went on. We got to tell our story, tell our narratives. And our ancestors, Zora Neale Hurston, she attempted to help out and making sure we heard our ancestors' stories. Now you're right, they're venerating through us. They have to venerate through us. Because we are them. And we cannot allow that their stories and what happened to them to go unnoticed and set back and forget about it like it didn't happen. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing it. No, we're not. We're bringing it forth. We want everybody. You up here on our soil talking crazy, never ever live this life. Never ever live this life. Oh yeah, okay, all right. Let's get back to it. Because his exchange with Ketanji Brown, oh my God, the same one that don't know what a woman is. How can Supreme Court justice and not know what a woman is, and you supposedly are a woman that gave birth to another woman? Retards, insane, crazy, psychotic, sociopathic, yes, psychopaths. It is what it is. That's cray-cray. Okay, let's get back to it.
At the children of slaves who were brought here unlawfully, in defiance of laws forbidding the slave trade, would in fact be citizens. And we can imagine that their parents were not only brought here in violation of United States law, but were here against their will, and so maybe felt allegiance to the countries where they were from. And you say that the purpose of the 14th Amendment was to put all slaves on equal footing, newly freed slaves on equal footing, and so they would be citizens. But that's not textual. So how do you get there? You say it in just a few sentences, so can you elaborate?
Sure. If you look at the 19th century sources, what you see is that even though their entry may have been unlawful, 19th century antebellum law never treated their presence as unlawful. In fact, quite the opposite. One of the amici, in fact, points to like a Mississippi statute, which probably is replicated throughout the South before the Civil War, that says slaves in Mississippi have an indefeasible domicile in Mississippi. In other words, even if they run away, if they get away, Mississippi says, nope, you still live here, right? And so it'd be astonishing, in other words, for the opponents of the 14th Amendment to say, oh.
Okay, I have to stop that one right there too. Because y'all know what was happening if we ran away, if our ancestors ran away. Y'all know what law was in effect, do you? Okay, I have to go there. Y'all know what law was in effect when the slaves or our ancestors ran to freedom. Do you all know what that law was? Yeah, I'll tell you. It's called the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. It was a federal law requiring citizens and officials in free states to assist in capturing escaped slaves, punishing those who aided them with fines and imprisonment. Okay, I'm gonna reread that. He says, in fact, in Mississippi, they made sure that the slaves, even when they ran away, were still considered a part of Mississippi, y'all. Yeah, okay. And you know why? There was a Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. It is a controversial federal law requiring citizens and officials in free states to assist in capturing escaped slaves, punishing those who aided them with fines and imprisonment. And we know that the civilized tribes also participated in making sure they captured slaves that were escaping. I'm just saying. Let's go back to it, you all. Let's go back to it, because this is cray-cray to me. Okay, let's go.
You know, these people were not domiciled, and therefore it goes the other way, because actually U.S. law, even if they were brought in illegally and through an illegal slave trade, once they were there, by
Well,
domestic
their
law,
intent is to return as soon as they can, let's say. So they're here, they're resident, and maybe under your theory, which says, well, lawfulness for a different purpose, but they're here, they're resident. Let's take your assumption that they're not here unlawfully. But let's say they don't have an intent to stay. They want to escape and go back the second they can. Are they domiciled?
Under the 19th century law, I think this is the flip side of the hypothetical that we talked about earlier. Under 19th century law, they are treated as domiciled in the United States. So it'd be astonishing. And in the debates in the congressional floor, talk about not this specific case, but to say, look, slaves who have been forced to come here and have been here are lawfully domiciled here. They don't use the ways domiciled, but they use allegiance. They say they don't have allegiance, that once they've been forced to come here, they don't have allegiance to any foreign or African potentate, and therefore they're
General, how would that apply to the children of illegally trafficked people today? Would the same reasoning apply?
It would turn on whether the parents are lawfully domiciled in the United States.
So if they're brought in illegally, but then they choose to remain and they want to remain and they're domiciled, you would say that their lawful presence is not dictated by whether they were brought here lawfully or not. And that's different from someone who, say, crosses the border unlawfully.
Yeah, I think it would turn on whether their presence is lawful.
General,
in other words, obviously there may be many other important things that could be done to assist people like that. The question is, if they give birth to someone in the United States, that person naturally a citizen, that would turn, based on the original public meaning of the clause, on the lawfulness of their presence. Are they domiciled?
General, can I ask you a question? To follow up on what Justice Gorsuch was exploring with you with respect to domicile, did I understand you to say that domicile is going to be eventually, or is controlled by Congress, who is domiciled? I'm struggling to figure out who is domiciled in your argument.
The domiciliaries are people who are lawfully present and have an intent to remain permanently. So that's a kind of black letter, understanding of domicile. Now, Congress can't dictate that certain class of people, legal entrants and so forth, cannot lawfully lack the legal capacity to form a legally binding domicile.
But if that's so, then doesn't it make the domicile for the purpose of the 14th Amendment turn then ultimately on Congress's will in a way that the framers did not intend? I mean, my understanding was the framers put this citizenship clause into the Constitution to prevent future Congresses from being able to affect citizenship in this way.
Sure.
Very briefly, no, I don't think so, because it is up to the alien whether or not they want to be domiciled here. Now, there may be
But I thought you just said Congress can make determinations as to who counts as being domiciled here.
Yeah,
so if that's true, then it ultimately would impact, in your theory, whether or not this person can claim that they have citizenship for 14th Amendment purposes based on Congress's determination. And I just thought that's what the 14th Amendment was trying to get away from.
Yes, please.
Very briefly, I just point you to the discussion in Professor Warman's amicus brief where he talks about this is not a new problem. Going back even to the British common law, there's a situation of people who lack a safe conduct and are passing through the king's domains without permission. And he says the best reading of the common laws, they are not under the protection of the king, and they're not covered by the rule of birthright citizenship.
Thank you, counsel. You mentioned in your briefing and also this morning the problem of birth tourism. Do you have any information about how common that is or how significant a problem it is?
It's a great question. No one knows for sure. There's a March 9th letter from a number of members of Congress to DHS saying, do we have any information about this? The media reports indicate estimates could be over 1 million or 1.5 million from the People's Republic of China alone. The congressional report that we cited in our brief talks about certain hotspots like Russian elites coming to Miami through these birth tourism companies. And I mean, here's the fact about it that I think is striking. Media reported as early as 2015 that based on Chinese media reports, there are 500 birth tourism companies in the People's Republic of China whose business is to bring people here to give birth and return to that nation.
Having said all that, you do agree that that has no impact on the legal analysis before us?
I think it's, I know what Justice Scalia said in his Hamdan dissent, where their interpretation has these implications that could not possibly have been approved by the 19th century framers of this amendment. I think that shows that they've made a mess. Their interpretation has made a mess of the provision.
Well, it certainly wasn't a problem in the 19th century.
No, but we're in a new world now, as Justice Alito pointed out to, where 8 billion people are one plane ride away from having a child who's a U.S. citizen.
Well, it's a new world. It's the same Constitution.
It is, and as Justice Scalia said, I think in the case that Justice Alito was referring to, you've got a constitutional provision that addresses certain evils, and it should be extended to reasonably comparable evils. He said that about statutory interpretation. I think the same principle applies here, and I think we quote that in our brief.
Thank you. Justice Thomas, anything further?
General, you're getting a lot of questions about immigration, and they harken back, of course, to citizenship, which is defined in or set out in the 14th Amendment. How much of the debates around the 14th Amendment had anything to do with immigration?
I think that the principal focus of those debates, it has to do really not with immigrants, but with the Indian tribes. I mean, obviously the main goal, the one pervading purpose, as this court said in the slaughterhouse cases, was to establish the citizenship of the freed slaves and their children. But they were very concerned about the problem of something that they all accepted as a given, which is that the children of tribal Indians are not within the rule of birthright citizenship. So I think that's we draw an analogy to that, to the issue of temporary sojourn or congressional debates, and all of those quotes go in our direction.
And there was, Justice Sotomayor brought up Wong King Ark. there was no question in that case that about domicile, was there?
I disagree. The court says at the very beginning of its opinion, here are the accepted facts. These are lawfully domiciled here. When it states the question presented, it talks about domicile. When it recites the legal principle at page 693, it says domicile 3 times. And at page 705, at the end of the opinion, it says, here's the single question we've decided. We've decided that Chinese immigrants with a permanent domicile and residence here are fall within the rule of birthright citizenship.
Justice Alito?
Under the minimum definition of domicile, which
Okay, I have to stop it because they're about to get into another discussion. But I love the fact that Clarence Thomas, y'all, he coming through in the clutch. I'm giving Clarence Thomas his praises because he coming through in the clutch, right? He had him to give him the opportunity, the Solicitor General, to clear up what we're talking about with immigration, right? Was immigration something that they considered in during the formation of the 14th Amendment? He says, well, no, well, when you look at the Indians, and Indians were a part of sovereign nation, they got children having babies on this soil, and their children are not citizens because they were of another sovereign nation. They were not official United States citizens until the Snyder Act of 1924, you all. Don't let nobody tell you anything differently. Indians not taxed. They changed up. They were not under the jurisdiction. So how is it that a Mexican that crosses the border has a baby on this soil, all of a sudden their child is a citizen? Or a Chinese come a plane, y'all heard them say, all of these immigrants coming over here now, they're a plane ride away. And they now trying to drop babies on the soil. They tackle the Chinese coming here with all them babies. I love it. I love it. Because there ain't no way they should be going right now trying to act like what the framers said in 1868 applies to any illegals in this country at this point in time. And any of their parents, and I'm going to say this, any of their parents that have brought kids on this soil or had babies on this soil have committed trafficking crimes, and then on top of that, fraud in the United States. So therefore, no way you can get citizenship and your baby don't have no citizenship. Hear me out, Trump. Hear me out. Hear me out, General Solicitor Sauer. It's human trafficking. They're already committing a crime. It's already fraud. No way them babies should be citizens. Oh, no, they don't like when we speak the truth to power. No, they don't. Hence the reason why a lot of us are not sitting in these spaces having conversations via the media. They don't want nobody like me, right? A real freedman, a real American free woman on these panels breaking it down. They don't want me on it, right? They're not going to ask me to be on the show. There's plenty of other podcasters as well, right? They don't want me on their podcast because I will challenge you. And you're going to have some knowledge about what you're talking about. You're not going to be parrot talking with me. It's not happening. Okay, let's get back to it because they're going back to that domicile. They're going back to the domicile. So let's do it.
I think existed in 1868 and continues to exist today. A person's domicile is the place where he or she intends to make a permanent home. Now, normally, you would think that a person who is subject to arrest at any time and removal could not establish a domicile. But we have an unusual situation here because our immigration laws have been ineffectively and in some instances unenthusiastically enforced by federal officials. So there are people who are subject to removal at any time if they are apprehended and they go through the proper procedures. But they have, in their minds, made a permanent home here and have established roots. And that raises a humanitarian problem. And I wonder if you could address that.
If I may, one legal and one humanitarian. The legal point is if you look at those cases, for example, Carson against Reed, Park against Barr, this court's decisions in Elkins and Toll against Marino, they talk about the legal capacity to create a domicile, excluding someone who may have the subjective intent, which otherwise would be determinative, as being excluded. On the humanitarian point, I would point out, as I said at the beginning, Justice Alito, that the United States rule of nearly unrestricted birthright citizenship is an outlier among modern nations. It's a very small minority of nations that have that rule. For example, every nation in Europe has a different rule. And the notion that they have a huge humanitarian crisis as a result of not having unrestricted birthright citizenship, I don't think is a strong argument. And I point out, obviously, for reliance-related reasons, this executive order applies only prospectively, and we ask the court to rule only prospectively.
Justice Sotomayor?
I agree with you what the European nation's rule is, but England was always different, wasn't it?
Not until 1983 it changed.
That's not quite true. The Wong Kim Ark does a wonderful job of laying out the English rule. And you claim it was different, but there isn't any treatises or scholars who say it's different. English rule was always by birth. Other countries were not by birth. Let me just go to the implications of what you're asking us to do. You are asking us to overrule Wong Kim Ark? Well, Wong Kim Ark's parents were domiciled in the US, but they owed loyalty to China. They eventually returned to China. So they didn't have a primary allegiance to the United States. So you're not asking that. Are you asking us to overrule then our cases, one of which said that a child of illegal aliens was a citizen? You're asking us to overrule that.
No, first of all, we're not asking you to overrule Wong Kim Ark. We agree with the holding of Wong Kim Ark and much of the reasoning. And then as to those later cases starting in 1966, where the court makes sort of, unreasoned references to this
Wait a
issue,
minute, in top you loose, the respondent unlawfully overstayed her visa and gave birth to a child here. The court, Holland II, wrote, the child is of course an American citizen. That person wasn't domiciled here lawfully. So you're asking us to overrule that case.
I wouldn't say we're asking you to overrule. We think that's similar to a drive-by jurisdictional ruling where there's a simple statement that's not debated. There's no further analysis of it. There's really an assumption there. And we think that's similar to cases where the court just assumes jurisdiction without discussing.
When we ruled in Trend that Indians could not become citizens, the government then after began to unnaturalize many Indians who had been sworn in as citizens. You asked us to concentrate only on the prospective nature of the citizen's order. But the logic of your position, if accepted, is that this president or the next president or a Congress or someone else could decide that it shouldn't be prospective. They would be limiting that according to your theory.
If, as we asked, the court confines its ruling to prospective relief only, which it did in
No, I'm
Sessions
saying
against-
to you, that's what you're asking us for relief right now. I'm asking whether the logic of your theory would permit what happened after the court's decision in Trend, that the government could move to unnaturalize people who were born here of illegal residents.
No, we believe the court should do what it did in Sessions against Morales-Santana, where there was a ruling that would have deprived people who are already citizens of citizenship, and the court said this applies prospectively only, and we think that's the appropriate course here, right? The proper course here, and that's what we're asking. We are not asking for any retroactive relief.
Justice Kagan?
General, I think even your brief concedes that the position you're taking now is a revisionist one with respect to a substantial part of our history. And I think that that's in large part because of Wong Kim Ark and the way people have read that case, which of course was in the late 19th century, and have read it ever since then. And what that case suggests is, I mean, there's a very clear rationale. You say, oh, it says the word domicile a bunch of times. It's a long opinion. It says a lot of things. But the rationale of the case is really quite clear. It says there was this common law tradition. It came from England. We know what it was. Everybody got citizenship by birth except for the beginning.
Okay, I have to stop this. Again, they're speaking of that fucking English common law, and there was some exceptions that he said at the beginning, but at the same time, the 14th Amendment is not on English common law. I'll reiterate, our ancestors did not have a status where they could have their parents or their parents enslaved could make a decision that they had a status. Again, the men were removed and they made laws that the child took the status of the mother, not of the father, which is English common law. So why they keep bringing that bull? Okay. Oh, all right. And we know a lot of these birth and tourism that is happening here in America, it is women. It is the women, right? The baby follows the belly. Didn't we just go over Partis? Wait a minute. We just went over it. And Partis Sequitur Venturum, which is a 17th century legal doctrine adopted in the American colonies, most notably Virginia in 1662, decreed that a child's legal status, free or enslaved, was determined by the status of the mother. You all, these immigrants get on my nerves. They get on my nerves. And that is the Supreme Court justice. That is a Supreme Court justice that doesn't even want to acknowledge American 17th century legal doctrine that parts from English freaking common law. Okay? I just have to, it just burns me up. It just burns me up. And exactly, they did get rid of birthright citizenship. He made that point. He made the point, but they want to still argue and debate about how the interpretation of birthright citizenship should go in favor of illegal aliens at this point in time. That's what I'm hearing. But you will know Sotomayor is the same Supreme Court justice that claims that she is a birthright citizenship baby and that she also received affirmative action. She surely did. All based on us. And she's sitting in the Supreme Court and don't know American history and American laws and how the American doctrines and laws do not line up with no English common English law at this point in time, or English common law. We're trying to get away from England. They don't own nothing over here. When you talk about English common law and the United States Constitution, I'm gonna just put this out there. So we all understand law is in versus the United States Constitution. Okay, I'm gonna read this because I looked it up. It says it has jury trials and rights derived from the Magna Carta, while the United States adopted judge-made law. It also written into its constitution popular sovereignty and rather than parliamentary supremacy. So early American law was direct inheritance from English common law, but the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, formalizes rights found in English such as due process and a right to jury trial. But American courts do not, at this point in time, implement English common law. as well because of how we structure the Constitution. Unlike the British system where Parliament is supreme, American courts can strike down laws based on the written Constitution. Okay? On the written Constitution. So they do say citizenship and rights, concepts of citizenship born from allegiance to the king were adopted into American law, defining the relationship between citizens and states. Well, guess what? They veered from it with the 14th Amendment. Did they not? Did they not? Because guess what? We had slavery. And there was an emancipation. And there was also a civil war. So it's not English common law to talk about the 14th Amendment as if it's English common law. I mean, come on now. Okay, let's get back to it. Ooh, Lord. Okay.
And that tradition carried over to the United States. And then what the 14th Amendment did was accept that tradition and not attempt to place any limitations on it. And so that was the clear rationale, a clear rationale that is diametrically different from your rationale. And everybody took Wong-Kim Ark to say that and to say that as a result of that, of course, birthright citizenship was the rule. And I think everybody has believed that for a long, long time. And I guess my question is this. You have a story about the reasons why we should go back to what you view as the original meaning. And given the long history of this country's understanding about birthright citizenship, what would it take? What do you think it should take to accept that story in terms of the magnitude of the evidence that we would need to see in order to accept this revisionist theory and in order to change what I think people have thought the rule was for more than a century?
Let me make 2 points in response to that, one historical and one legal. Historical point, I disagree with the way you've characterized the understanding of Wong-Kim Ark, and I would point to something that's emphasized in their amici's briefs, which is in 1921, Richard Flournoy, who becomes a senior State Department official in the Roosevelt administration and pushes their theory as to temporary sojourners, writes a law review article in 1921 where he says, I think the children of temporary visitors should be citizens. But he admits that is not the understanding of Wong-Kim Ark. He admits Wong-Kim Ark did not hold that. And he admits that there's an array of authorities that go against him. He talks about careful and reliable, high authorities. And that's referring to the consensus that we point out in pages 26, 28 of our brief. We've got 12 treatises from 1881 to 1922 that all say, including for decades after Wong-Kim Ark, that say children of temporary sojourners are not included. What happens between 1921 and the 1930s? Well, Mr. Flournoy became a senior State Department official. He adopted that as the policy of the Roosevelt administration. So their argument is basically saying there wasn't this consensus going back to 1890. The consensus, as their own author admits, goes entirely in the opposite direction. For 50 years, right? For 50 years from the framing of the clause through the 1920s, maybe 60 years, the general understanding when it comes to what's at issue here and was not an issue in Wong-Kim Ark is the children of temporary visitors do not become citizens under the clause. And then the legal point, you referred to the sort of concept of temporary local allegiance. Rely on the Schooner Exchange, this theory that you've got temporary local allegiance. But if you actually look at page 572 of the congressional record, right at the beginning, introducing the Civil Rights Act, Senator Trumbull says, I said not subject to any foreign power. I wanted to say born in the United States and owing allegiance to the United States, but I was aware that there's a, quote, a sort of allegiance from persons temporarily resident in the United States whom we have no right to make citizens. So Senator Trumbull says the reason I haven't adopted the language and meaning that they say should be packed into these provisions is that everybody knows that the children of temporary visitors should not be citizens.
Thank you, General.
Justice Gorsuch?
Just to follow up on that point, General, one interesting counterpoint about the understanding of Wong-Kim Ark that followed with respect to temporary sojourners. And I take you've got your well-taken points. But there was, of course, John Marshall Harlan, the great dissenter who dissented in Wong Kim Ark, and later gave a bunch of lectures. And he posed the question about the sojourners. What, suppose an English father and mother went down to the hot springs to get rid of the gout, and while there they have a child, now back in England. Is that child a citizen of the United States, born of the jurisdiction thereof by mere act of birth? And he says, under Wong Kim Ark, he is. And he continues. I'm sure that was tongue in cheek, but now what do you do with that?
I'd say two things in response to that. First of all, he gave a speech, but we have 12 uncontradicted treatises that say the opposite, that is not what Wong Kim Ark means, and that's not the meaning of the clause. But also, I'd make a more fundamental point. When you're looking that really, Tom, theme like you can't be doing this because you can't make and we all agree, or it's obvious that the children of temporary visitors do not become citizens. And how does the majority opinion address that? It says domicile 3 times when it recites the legal rule. It says permanent residence and domicile is the holding. So the court should be bound by what it says. This is what we're deciding. And again, on page 75, it says this is the single question. Now, there's been a lot of discussion up to that point, but at the very end, they said the single question we've decided is the citizenship status of the children of Chinese immigrants with a permanent residence and domicile in the United States.
Do you think Native Americans today are birthright citizens under your test and under your friend's test?
I think so. I mean, obviously, they've been granted citizenship by statute.
Put aside the statute. Do you think they're birthright citizens?
No, I think the clear understanding that everybody agrees in the congressional debates is that the children of tribal Indians are not birthright citizens.
I understand that's what they said, but your test is the domicile of the parents, and that would be the test you'd have us apply today, right?
Yes. So if a tribal Indian, for example, gives up allegiance to...
Born today, birthright citizens.
I think so on our test. Yeah, they're lawfully domiciled here.
Okay. And then,
I'm not sure. I have to think that through, but
that's
my reaction.
I'll take the yes. That's all right. And then I just want to ask you quickly about the INA, adopted in 1940 and 1952. It uses the same term as the citizenship clause, and one might have a pretty good argument. I'm sure you got some arguments along just these lines that it should be understood to mean whatever it meant in 1868. But there was a lot of water over the dam between those two things. And as your brief points out, by the Roosevelt administration, there's the thin concept of jurisdiction power over is enough, a broader understanding of birthright. Would there be an argument for reading that statute under its original plain meaning at the time, 1940, 1952, to perhaps have a different meaning than the Constitution?
We don't think that's the best interpretation. I give 2 reasons. One is it would be very surprising if a statute that says exactly the constitutional phrase subject to the jurisdiction thereof were interpreted to mean something totally different or to ossify a then current misunderstanding of the clause. We think that the best analogy here is probably state long-arm statutes. Take a sort of non-controversial example. State long-arm statutes routinely say we're going to exercise personal jurisdiction to the extent of due process. It takes the constitutional standard and it puts it in the statute. And nobody thinks that those ossify, are limited to the precedent, this court's precedents at the time they were enacted. Everyone thinks that phrase due process incorporates, the developing law of due process and minimum context and so forth, including from this court. So we think that's the best analogy when you're looking at the constitutional phrase itself and you take it out of a freighted context, the natural interpretation is say this reflects the objective meaning of the Constitution. And the objective meaning of the Constitution is its original public meaning in 1866.
Do you see notable counterpoints to that argument?
I'm sure there are arguments on the other side. We addressed them in their brief.
So you're really, at the end of the day, then, this is a straight up constitutional ruling you want from this court. Win, lose, or draw.
Yeah, we think that the statute and the Constitution means the same thing. If the court disagrees, obviously we prefer an adverse ruling. If the court's going to do that on a statutory basis and a constitutional basis.
But you just disavowed that in your responses to me by saying that that's not an available option. It's the way I understood it.
Yes, the court would have to disagree with our statutory position, which is that it means the same thing as the Constitution. But if the court were to do that, then the natural course would probably be to rule on statutory grounds alone. Now, we think they mean the same thing, and we've got arguments for that, including, I think, the analogy I just referenced.
Thank you.
Justice Kavanaugh?
General, how should we think about the text of the 14th Amendment, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, as distinct from the different language of the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which refers, as you know, to persons not subject to any foreign power? Those texts are, on their face, different, and the history that Justice Kagan referred to might have developed quite a bit differently if the 14th Amendment's text had used the phrase that was in the Civil Rights Act.
Okay. These questions about why the framers didn't use this text or that text and that, I mean, it's already written, dude. I'm just like, what are we debating here? It's already written. It's in the global record. So now you're trying to get him to infer something to me that is not even there. It's not even true. You can go read the global record where they actually discuss all of this, right? So I think I'm coming to the point that I'm going to end where we're talking about the audio of this, and I'm not listening to the other being that wants to argue for immigrants, illegals, to human trafficking, to make it legal, and for us to accept that these beings are illegally human trafficking and committing fraud. That's all I see. That's all I see that they're doing, right? Because nothing in the 14th Amendment applies to illegal aliens and their babies on this soil. To me, it's very well understood. It is written there. I'm gonna now shut it down. Let's see. I want to see how far before they go into her discussion. But I don't understand. The 14th Amendment, the baby didn't have no domicile unless the parents had a domicile. And we already know that our ancestors didn't have agency, even if they were parents, because they made sure that the child followed the belly of the mother, right? So the mother didn't have status and the child didn't have it. So how in the world now illegal aliens can come to this soil and their babies have status? Are y'all following me? Our ancestors, so you're trying to tell me because our ancestors didn't have status and their children didn't have status, now all of a sudden illegal aliens come here and their children have status under the 14th Amendment? And their parents are not domiciled here. Their parents are not citizens. They don't have a residence here. They're just here as sojourners stopping in. I mean, y'all see what I'm saying? Do y'all follow what I'm following, what I'm putting down? Because I'm trying to figure this out. None of this is making sense to me. None of it. And then they're not really going on the history of the 14th Amendment and why it came about. Because in the Wong Kim arc, just admit it was an error. Just admit that doesn't make any sense, because at the end of the day, the parents didn't stay in America and become citizens. They left. He left. They had a permanent residence. Now that's the argument. Okay, they were domiciled here. I get that. But everything else, he shouldn't have been a citizen to me. But at the same time, they would, give him the domicile. Illegal aliens and foreigners do not have a residence here. They don't have a domicile in a state or in the United States of America. And their children do not get to be a citizen because their parents decided to traffic them onto this soil and then commit fraud for citizenship. Okay, that's all. Hey, I can wrap it up just like that. Wrap it up just like that. Now, okay, they can take their common English, common law legalese. that still doesn't apply to the 14th Amendment to me. Not when our ancestors couldn't even decide on their citizenship, right? Or they did not have citizenship because they were chattel slaves. Yes. America needs to pull real good receipts as proof and fact so we can get a big win for America. Well, now, you know, all of this stuff is coming out with all Chinese trafficking, human trafficking. They literally opened the door for Chinese to human traffic and commit fraud to me. You know, because their interpretation went away from the Constitution, and now they trying to tell us that, oh no, the Constitution and what they wrote in the Constitution and the global records does not apply today. Well, what are you saying then? What are you saying to Americans? What are you saying to us, the freedmen? Okay, all right, you all. So I'm gonna stop sharing that. I think I had one more thing. Let's wrap it up because I'm not listening to the Asian and at the ACLU. We're not giving her no time. I'm not giving her no time. Y'all can listen to her argument, or wait a minute, let me read something that she says, and it'll piss you off. It'll piss you off. Okay. Let me go on down here and I'm gonna read just when she opens up. She's stumbling and they trying to help her every time. They go out their way to help her, right? Because all she talk about is common British law. And for me, I get upset because we know that there's no such thing with British common law when it comes to the formation of the 14th Amendment. And you want to reinterpret it now today as British common law, but you done made laws here in America, part of the colonies with partus, let me put it out here, partus sequitur ventrum, the offspring follows the belly. And so if you want to do that, right? We want to implement that with the immigrants. Okay, the mama is not a citizen. Therefore, she can't have no citizen on this soil. That baby ain't no citizen here. That baby can't be a citizen because the mama ain't no citizen. Huh? So how, okay. Which parent are we following? The mama, because that baby come out of the womb of the mama. And guess what? With American law that was made in slavery and chattel slavery before the 14th Amendment, that baby is not a citizen. That's it. It's real simple. Let's get it. It's real simple. I need to be on the Supreme Court. Better yet, no, I need to be talking to Trump. Come on, Trump. Let's talk. It's time for us to sit down at the table. It's time for us to go ahead and get that borough Freedmen, get this project going. We'll have a commission of freedmen, vetted freedmen, ready to do the work. Okay. Okay, here we go. Let me read something off of what Miss Wang said. Okay. So you know the government tries to make it seem as though what sets the exceptions apart and what defines the exceptions is that the government has some maximum theoretical power. The government could have exercised planetary regulatory power of the tribes, and therefore that's the same situation as a foreign national in the United States. So she's now saying that, you know what, if the government had said that they were foreign nationals, then she could say that the illegals coming here dropping babies would be the same as the tribes, right? But that's actually not true. If there was always a background notion, I don't know what all of this means. Whatever the parameters of the relationship between the United States government and the tribal nations at that time of ratification, there was this constitutionality, distinct status of tribes and tribal members, setting them excluding apportionment, which came, renewed in the 14th Amendment. I just couldn't follow, y'all. I can't follow. Miss Wayne. Okay, so let me see. Let me go back. So the words are obviously different. This is Miss Wayne. What Wong King Ark tells us is that the debates tell us that the framers, it was Congress, obviously. I'm gonna keep reading, y'all, because I'm not getting her. Congress was trying to do the same thing with both the 1866 Act and with the 14th Amendment. They wanted to capture the common law exceptions and the Indian tribal exception. They started out with the two separate phrases, not subject to any foreign power, plus excluding Indians not taxed. So as Justice Gray described it, it is in his majority opinion in Wong Kim Ark, they decided to switch to the affirmative phrase and subject to the jurisdiction. So Judge Alito says, well, do they mean the same thing? And wouldn't it be very odd if the citizenship test in the 14th Amendment were broader than the citizenship test in the 1866 Civil Rights Act, particularly light of the fact that the Civil Rights Act was reenacted? Okay, Civil Rights Act was reenacted after, and she says, the framers were trying to do the same thing in the language in both. So he says, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. It's like, the puzzle wrapped in an enigma, wrapped in a mystery. I don't know. I mean, all of this, but not subject to foreign power is pretty straightforward. So let me give you these examples. A baby is born here to an Iranian father who has entered the country illegally. The boy is automatically an Iranian national at birth. So he has a duty to provide military service to the Iranian government. Is he not subject to a foreign power, Ms. Wayne? Not within the meaning of the 1866 Act, Justice Alito. It is clear that from Wong Kim Ark, it's clear from the debates what the framers meant by the phrase not subject to any foreign power was referring to the ambassador exception. Okay, this is what we hear people on the internet saying. That when you look at the all the lists, I'm gonna go back to it. I'm gonna share this and then I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna share this. I will share this because this is the ignorance, okay, from these immigrants and how they want to try to interpret things in America that has nothing to do with them, right? She going all out to make sure that somehow the Civil Rights Act of 1866 did not apply to us, our people, right? Okay, let me go to, hold on, let me get it back up. Let me get it back up so we can see what Mr. Howard, the Senator of Michigan, what he said when he said. Okay, he said what he said. He put it all out there, and here they are playing these mental gymnastics with his words, as if he didn't know what he put out there. He even said it in the Global Record. He tired of answering the same damn question. That's basically what he was saying. He didn't say it like that, but he was really saying, I'm tired of answering this question, y'all. You keep coming back to this question, and I have clarified to you. And we're doing the same thing today. We're doing the same thing today, questioning what he already said. He said what he said. He made it very clear. And you got this Asian of the ACLU gonna sit here and say that the man didn't say what he said. Okay, and it's documented in the Global Record. I could not follow her. I could not follow any of that, what they were talking about. So that's why I'm where I'm at. Like, you know what? This should be a done deal. It should be over. We should not ever have to come back to this space again of challenging the 14th Amendment about birthright citizenship, because a lot of this did not make any sense. And why are we continuously, again, I'm going to state, why are we continuously in these moments where we can't just be comfortable as the freedmen that have done everything and sacrificed for this country? They're always coming up against us because we are stakeholders and shareholders, and they want to take our place. Because they keep saying now they want you to be indoctrinated to go around and tell and teach your children and tell folks that immigrants built this country. And we got amendments straight up in the Constitution. We're mentioned many a times in the Constitution, right? 3/5 a person. Okay. I'm just saying. I'm hyped, y'all, but I'm gonna calm it down. I'm gonna calm it down. I gotta go do my walk session and release some tension. So, but this had me hyped. It had me hyped because how in the world in this day and time are you trying to interpret that man's words and he said it? Yeah, they all human trafficking. It's real life. This is real. This is real. They are human trafficking and committing fraud and for citizenship. And they want to believe that this is okay. They want us to believe that this is not unlawful or this is not criminal behavior. Okay. It's back on the screen. And I'm going to get ready to leave on up out of here after this. Here it is, right? He says it. He makes it very clear. If you all know the English language, which I do, we've been speaking English all our lives. We had to learn English, right, in school. And after our ancestors were enslaved and they didn't want to teach them or didn't want to educate them. Now I've mastered the English language. I know I mastered it. How about y'all? We've been here long enough. We've mastered it. So now we got some Chinese on our soil telling us we don't even know what English is. Or we don't know what English common law is. And we were living under English common law. Come on now. What's wrong with these people? I'm trying to make sure this is up on my other screen before I close out. Because I'm putting it back up there. What he said, okay. And he said what he said. He said what he said. And we still at this point in 2026. This will not, okay, I'm gonna read up here. Mr. Howard, here's the president pro tempore. The question is on the amendment proposed by the senator from Michigan, Mr. Howard. Mr. Howard, the amendment is section 1, declaring that all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States, the states wherein they reside. Y'all heard them talk about that. Clarence Thomas for the clutch, coming in and making sure that, you know what, we have to make sure, reiterate that, right? Reiterate that, General Solicitor Sauer. Okay, he says, I do not propose to say anything on this subject except that the question of citizenship has been so fully discussed in this body as to not need any further elucidation. In my opinion, this amendment, which I have offered, is simply declaratory of what I regard as the law of the land already, that every group born within the jurisdiction is by virtue of natural law and natural citizen of the United States. Okay, so here we go. He says we want to make sure that they are law of the land. The law of the land is, from what I understand, is when you're born here and you're naturally born here, our ancestors were naturally born here. They did not have any allegiance to no African countries because they had been in chattel slavery for over 247 years. How do they have an allegiance to a foreign country? And even if they did want to go back, which they tried to send them back, or some of them asked them after the emancipation, right? What was it? The American Colonization Act or whatever. They said, we ain't going nowhere. We stand right here in America. And only them other crazy ones decided to leave and go to Liberia. I think it was maybe 10 to 12,000, no more than 20,000 that decided they going to go to Liberia. Out of 4 million. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Okay, out of 4 million, only about 20,000 decided to go over there, hop on over there to Africa. More power to you. But the majority of our ancestors said, we stand right here on our land. We done told this land. We done been here for over 100 some years. You're not getting rid of us now, right? Okay. So with that, this would not, of course, include persons born in the United States. This will not, of course, remove the of course. Remove the of course. Let's just read this way. This will not include persons born in the United States who are foreigners. That's one exception. Who are aliens. That's another exception. Who belong to families of the ambassadors or foreign ministers. That's 4, 5, right? That's 5 exceptions. Right? Okay. Of the United States, but it will include every other class of persons. Who is the other class of persons? We know that they are looking at the native tribes as foreigners or aliens because they're sovereign nations. So how in the world does this say only, you all? How in the world does this say only the ambassadors, the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States? Okay, on the docket, this is what she said. This is what she said. This is what she said. She says, Ms. Wang says, not within the meaning of the 1866 Act, Justice Alito. And that's clear from Wong Kim Ark, and it's clear from the debates. What the framers meant by the phrase not subject to any foreign power was referring to ambassador exception. Okay. I dropped it in. I said I can't listen. I listened to the end, but that was it. Y'all, are you all following me? How that don't make any sense? When we just see it on the screen. You see it on the screen, right? You see the list. Exactly. She's an Asian immigrant lawyer, and it's toast salad babble, talking a nothing burger. Correct. Because all she could refer back to was English common law. And we already know freaking English common law was not utilized in the conception of the 14th Amendment because of chattel slavery and the Civil War. Yeah. Okay. All right. I've taken enough of your time. I done went almost 3.5 hours, but this was a special live because of what has been going on, and we knew this day was coming, and I wanted to make sure we broke it down so when people come back and want to listen to the recording, that you understand there's some things here that they are moving the goalposts to try to make it right, to try to rationalize something that is not there. And the fact now, the ancestors and God is revealing the truth. We're in the age of truth. Look at all the Chinese that are getting basically going to be prosecuted, implementing or doing. They are human trafficking, right? They're basically criminals. First of all, they own the soil and implementing criminality of human trafficking. It is what it is. It's all over the news. So it's right on time. It is right on time. So they're going to have to, I think the ancestors, I should say, God and the ancestors are making sure via the universe that, you know what, we're protected. They're going to have to rule in Trump's favor. And then, OG Trump got some tricks up his sleeve because he petty like that, and I like it. Okay, with that, you all, I'm going to jump off this live. I will say to you, happy Easter. I know this is Good Friday, and it is a Good Friday for me. I want you all to enjoy your weekend, and I'll be putting some more material out there. We'll see what happens with this. I think they say there will be a determination by June. And I'm hoping it'll be sooner than June. But let's see what happens. This is a purpose for nationality. Exactly. How you just gonna cross the border and you're not even a citizen and you have a citizen? And again, you all keep that baby. Remember about the when you're talking to everybody, partus sequitur ventrum, wherein follows the belly. Okay, so that means that the offspring is following the status of the mother. And since the illegal aliens, the Mexicans, the Chinese are not citizens having babies on the soil, that baby can't be a citizen either. But anyway, all right, you all, I'm out of here. I love peace, happiness. I really enjoyed this time, and thank you all for tuning in. And please, please, please share the petition that is out on the Freedmen channel. I will post it with all of the links to this live as well in the discussion or details about the live. Also, it's on the website. And then if you follow me on X and TikTok, it's there too. So with that, I really enjoyed my time, and thank you so much. I'll talk to you later. Enjoy.